This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from across the iRacing world. Are you all set to go? Because we are here on RacespotTV and the iRacing Esports Network for round number 3 of the ClubSport series powered by DGFX Racing. Today, we're at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park north of the border as we're all set for the 2.4 hours of Mosport. I'm Justin Prince, alongside the booth today is Nolan Rempel. Connor Remanek is in the director's seat for today as we get all set to go to challenge this very tight racetrack here in Bowmanville, Ontario. Nolan, glad to have you along with us for today. It should be an absolutely interesting one with how tight this racetrack is and the limitations of passing zones.
Oh, absolutely, Justin. The only really good passing zone is, of course, down the very famous back straightaway, the Mario Andretti straightaway, and maybe down the front straightaway if you are brave enough. It's, of course, a very tight track, a very technical track, high-speed corners left and right, except, of course, for the Moss hairpins. It is going to be a very exciting one here today.
Absolutely, and don't forget, this is the middle portion of the schedule too, the second of the 2.4-hour distance races on the calendar for this third round, and it's been an exciting one. First, we had Okayama earlier a couple months ago, then a wild one just last month at Brands Hatch. What do you expect today for Mosport this evening, and what should be an interesting one, similar as we were discussing before to Brands Hatch in terms of attrition potentially?
Well, it is going to be a race where the patient drivers are going to be the ones to endure. Patience is going to be key here today with this track being so tight and so narrow and just about impossible to pass in all of these corners safely without making any sorts of contact. It is going to be a huge race of attrition, and it'll definitely be the patient drivers that will win out in this one instead of those that try to just barge their way through.
Let's take a look at the standings entering today. 3 different classes of drivers will be able to take the circuit this afternoon here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And as you can see, things getting interesting in all the different series. First things first, you have Team Howie Media on top of the overall standings for the sport class with 216 points on the schedule. Gold Racing Team, America Racing Team, 49 Motorsports, Fisher Motorsport currently round out the top 5. Then you have the TCRs, where Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing is on top of the board with CXR Project Black, Full Center Racing, Team Vikings, and Sim RC inside the top 5. Then the Club Series, Movado Sim Racing off to a strong start with some of the top drivers in their MX-5s. They're 1 and 2 over Hugh Jazz, along with World of Sim Racing Team and Sky Y Racing for the top 5 in those standings. 9 total teams have taken points in that class. Your thoughts on how the standings have gone so far, Nolan?
Well, I think it's definitely safe to say that the closest has been between the two Movado cars, sitting just 5 points apart from each other, but the TCR class is also where things have been the most competitive in terms of actual racing. Despite that, Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing has a significant lead over CXR Project Black, so the Project Black and Full Send Racing, they've got some work to do if they're going to work their way back up there to the top.
Here's to take a look at the point structure. Of course, if you get a victory, 100 total points, 90 points for second spot. Third place is 81 points, and it goes down from there all the way down to 25th in your overall class. So it's going to be important for the drivers to do so. Remember as well the cars that they're going to be driving. Of course, you have the Club, the Sport, and the TCR class that will take the track today. That will be fighting for those points. And it's going to be interesting how the pace will settle out amongst the field today, Nolan, because we were talking about this up to 20-second difference between the fastest car and the slowest car on the track today.
Absolutely. The current pole position lap for NAB Racing has been a 1:19.41. The slowest lap in the Miata class has been a 1:38. And then, of course, you have the class separation. So we were talking about this just before this broadcast, and we were saying it would not surprise us if we saw cars being lapped before even lap number 5. So it's, again, race of attrition. You have to be patient, especially if you're one of the lap cars, the faster ones trying to get through. We are in the final seconds of qualifying. One thing to note, before the race even began, we've already had not one, but 2 penalties that have taken place in this session. The most notable one being for the Movado Sim Racing car, currently sitting in second place. They are having to start from the back of the field because they jumped the gun on their start of their qualifying and impeded one of the Audis that was still on a flying lap.
Yeah, we were talking about that was about 20-30 seconds before they got the checkered flag for the previous session. So that means the driver that is currently, as you see as some of the drivers cycle out for the positions, inside the top 2 for the club class, for the Mazda MX-5s, they'll have to go and start at the rear of the field along with the World of Sim Racing team. Also penalties given to Evolve Racing team and Rev Match Esports RB Scale Works. Those prior to were for incorrect registration. But the drivers are all set to go for what should be an entertaining race today as they get ready to get underway. NAB Racing starts on the pole today for their sport class, along with Team Helly Media in second spot. Gold Racing Team will start in row 2, side by side, with red and white 3 and 4. Racecraft Esports Slide is in 5th, with Slow Racing Esports Team in 6th. 7th spot, we'll see Marakai Racing with Northside Racing in the 8th spot. Hughes Porsche is in 9th. Fisher Motorsport rounds out the top 10. Hell Racer starts in 11th today with a 120.5, with H2 Performance SRT in 12th. Project GT ends.de 13th, Team Hella Media in 14th. 49 Motorsports at the back of the field today in 15th. They look to charge through along with Punto Curl Sim Racing with SlowRacing.com Esports Team and SRT Esport Green, rounding out the 18 drivers who recorded time. Rev Match Esports having to start at the rear of the class. Next class, let's take a look at that, Nolan.
Well, it's Team Hoyschenfeld once again on pole position with Racecraft Esports Push right beside them. Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing with CXR Project Black in 4th. Full Send Racing in 5th place with SimRC ClubSport down in 6th. Fog Autotech Simmer, in 7th place with VEC Sim Racing in 8th. Real Pixel Motorsport, the 2 Real Pixel Motorsport machines in 9th and 10th. Team Vikings and German Sim Racing Cyan in 11th and 12th. Full Send Racing and E-Team Brit in 13th and 14th. Element Sim Racing and CXR Project Black at 15th and 16th. S-Rock Racing and Graphite Racing in 17th and 18th, with the other Graphite Racing machine in 19th, with the huge ass Audi in 20th place. Rounding off your 21 car field today, we have got the German Sim Racing Orange machine.
Should note that Speedworks Racing Team Esport, VEC Sim Racing, and Evolve Racing Team Orange all did not record times as you look at the club standings. Movado Sim Racing Team's 289 machine is up at the top of the board. Their 298 machine, though, will have to start at the rear of the class. They qualified in 2nd. Huge Ass Mazda starts in 3rd. Then the World of Sim Racing Team also will go to the back due to a qualifying procedure. Currently in 4th on the board. Calif Racing starts in 5th, with Try Racing in the 49th overall spot inside the top 6. CXR Project Black starts off in 50th overall. Sky Black Racing in 51st spot. Rogers A51 Mazda rounds out the qualifiers. 9 total Mazda MX-5s will take the grid today. While they sort things out before it's the start of today's race and roll the cars out onto the track, let's talk about the expectations in terms of today's race. 10 turns here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Total distance of 2.46 miles. And a 70% fuel limit for some of the cars, including the Audis, as well as the potential for attrition. The best passing zones, Moss Corner and the Mario Andretti straightaway. Best danger zones, White's Corner, turn number 1, and Moss Corner, as well as the run to turn number 8. Your keys to victory today, Nolan.
Patience is key, so if you think that you're not going to get by them, don't try to second guess yourself. Just, you really have to make sure that you remain patient throughout this race. Keep a clear head and make it so you can get through to the end. Another difficult corner as well we have to remember is, of course, Clayton. Now, IRL, that is pavement at the outside of that corner, but here in the simulator, it is still grass. So they are going to have to make sure that they stick to that line perfectly, because if you run wide there, well, you're almost certainly going to end up in a tire barrier, and that is just the perfect thing you would want to do to end your day.
All the drivers have been instructed that they will have to switch lines, is what we are hearing from race control. So some of the drivers will be having to swap from, say, right side of the track to left side of the track before we take the green flag. But just about all set behind the pace car to get rolling for one full warm-up lap to get the tires all warmed up and up to cycle here. Who were some of the drivers and teams we should keep an eye on, in your opinion, today to try and come away with the victory?
Well, I think the Movano 298 machine in the Miata class is definitely going to be one to watch. Of course, having to start from the rear in class, that's going to be crucial for them to get that good race that they need so they can try to work their way up to the top of this field. That's going to be something that they're going to have to really work hard on.
Coming into today, two drivers tied for the top of the driver's standings, and one car is off the racetrack.
Oh,
we have
really?
had one car off the track already. Racecraft Esports slid off the racetrack in Clayton Corner. And that is a tough part of the racetrack at race speed, and now we've already had one car off.
Well, you know, you and I just were talking about this before the broadcast. We were wondering, you know, when we were thinking the first incident would come, neither of us guessed that that would take place before we even took the green flag, before we even got halfway through the pace lap, no less. I don't quite know what to say about that one.
I'm not sure either. They, of course, have to cycle back to their position. It's going to take them about the full lap to get back up to the top 5. As you see, both Huge Ass Porsche, as well as Northside Racing and a few others having to move out of the way to allow them back into the position. But at that point, that's caused a little bit of interesting parts with the separation. Some of the drivers are going to have to separate a little bit before they take the green flag. But should be an entertaining one here. What should be a fun one for the 2.4 hours of Mosport. Your quick final thoughts before we take the green.
I guess pray. That's gotta be my only real advice at this point in time, Justin.
Pray indeed. As you look on board, this is the sport class. They will take the green first, then the TCRs, then the club class. NAB Racing will lead them down to the green flag, the new army on the block. Looks to try and have the strong run to start things off, and their Porsche machine. On the outside line, Team Heli Media, green flag waving up at the stand as we're underway with NAB Racing, keeping it nice and slow to the starting procedure zone. A good launch for Team Heli Media as everyone's off and away to start off the 2.4 hours at Mosport.
We saw a couple cars already checking up in a little bit of 3-wide action. The number 86 got squeezed right to the pit wall, and they had to back out to avoid a wreck before we even got to turn number 1. So far, so good in your Porsche classes. They run through turn number 1, but the TCRs now, they have gotten underway, and so far they are also clean and green as they're through turn number 1.
Already single file for the top 5 position. Team Pointingveld leading them down the hillside through Clayton Corner.
Off. Got
And
the
yes,
Pixel
indeed.
Motorsport machine. Sorry to cut you off, Justin. Wolfgang Wildenauer in the Real Pixel Motorsport has gone off, and he has hit the barriers in turn number 2. The Miazdas are also underway with the huge-ass machine trying to run down that Movano 289 machine currently sitting in first place.
We have a crash in the sport class. Some of the drivers, including these Mazda MX-5s, might have to deal with Brandon Hawken, already off to a decent gap in front of Justin Hall, and Chase Small inside the top 3. But again, we have some trouble down the Mario Andretti straightaway. Multiple cars getting involved. Some of the Audis now getting into some of the trouble and starting to have to slow up. There are at least 2 or 3 different drivers mixed up in this grouping, and this is why.
Oh, looks like it was one of those boss corner types of wrecks. Somebody tried to look up the inside, and was there any contact helped them out there? Oh, the car got loose on the exit of the corner and cut back, and that is what caused this incident. That was Steve Clays in the Rev Match Esports machine, still on course, and now trying to get things going. trying to rejoin the track, and there was the 75 machine that went into the wall as well.
You can see that happen all as the Audis started to come through, and that's not a good thing to see. One of the Audis actually got collected in all of that. As we take an hour look, this is one of the slow racing machines that ended up losing grip on the outside corner. That is such a tough corner to hold on to grip to at Moss Corner.
It really is. It's one of the more difficult corners on the track, especially trying to get the power soon. And here you see coming back on track right in front of the Audis, and nearly just collected about half the field in that one. So it's a good thing for Rosen to not back up into the rest of the field, but it was some good awareness. It looks like we got an Audi that went off ahead of them as well in front of all of this. This has been, the race of attrition is certainly on, to say the least.
We just had CXR Project Black go off the racing line. They've had some trouble. One of the MX-5s also having trouble. Already a crazy start. And mind you, the sport class is about to reach into this club class in the next few laps. You can see this is CXR Project Black and why they went off. This was one of the danger areas, and you can see why, as they carried way too much speed off of the sand.
Did a good job to keep it out of that barrier. It's a very difficult thing to do if you slide off there, so they did a really fantastic job of mashing that throttle of the front wheel drive machine, keeping out of that concrete barrier. This has certainly been a very wild start, to say the least, of this race, and you reckon this might be an omen for what's to come?
Possibly at this point. We just had one car have to pit already with some of the attrition. That is the slow racing esports team. As this has all been going on, NAB Racing has pulled away by just about a couple car lengths for the time being. You take a look at the car pitting up on your screen, but the other slow racing machine, the blue one, and the 76 machine, is trying to battle amongst the drivers' team. Hella Media currently in second, while slow racing team is currently in third with the Racecraft Esports machine. So little packs starting to form before they reach the traffic this lap. They're reaching the Mazdas right now already.
Uh-oh, heads up in your mirrors. Here comes NAB Racing, starting to slice and dice his way through the Miata traffic, along with Matthias Havdahl for the Team Hella Media machine. So already it's been an intense start, and before even lap number 5, and we're already lapping the club class. So things have gotten off to a very wild start, to say the least, and this race already, it's almost impossible to really say anything. At this point, there is contact, and World Series team is off and hard into the tire barriers. Jairo Bernal, contact with one of the Porsches that was trying to work his way through. It was with Racecraft Esports Slides, Victor Tanaka.
Yeah, door-to-door contact sent off that machine. You see right now, one of those Mazda, yes indeed, that is World of Sim Racing already pulling off to the side. Again, they were door checked, trying to come down. You'll see it right about here as Racecraft tried to get to the inside line. Door-to-door contact sends the World of Sim Racing team machine off to the barrier.
This was one of the concerns before the race amongst the drivers, was how close these cars can get, and we just saw exactly why they had those concerns right there with the contact that sent that Miata into the tire barriers. So this is going to get crazy. The leader, though, has just been given a black flag. Matthias Havdahl is into the pits for a penalty for jumping the race start.
Yes, indeed. If you noticed, a lot of the drivers got the signal for the green flag. However, you have to wait here until the first white line here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. He has just been given the black flag for jumping that start. Got such a good launch to get in front of NAB Racing. Now, off and away, NAB Racing now is your leader, and a 3-car scrap for the lead for the sport class all of a sudden.
So things are definitely kicking off. Your race leader, black flag before lap number 5, and already we've had more incidents than we can really count. This is the whole race has just been completely going downhill, and for some drivers it's been going uphill. Like you said, Nick Thyssen is up in the lead. He was your pole sitter, and now he is back up into first place, and so far he's beginning to pull that gap on Thomas Ertzen for the slow racing machine.
It's been one of those types of races so far, and we are only a few minutes into the action. 2 hours and 25 minutes the total distance today. You look at the battle, though, for second position. Thomas Ertzen trying to hold on, a bit of a faster run for Victor Tanaka's Racecraft Esports slide machine this time through the S's into White's corner. The White's Corner, known for its attrition, especially when the NASCAR or Gander Outdoors and RV Truck Series makes its way to the circuit. Not risking it quite yet here in this portion. Remember, there's still a long ways to go in this race, and we've already seen enough attrition for what we usually see in a 6-hour race.
Exactly, so this has been pretty intense as it is. One of the Audis had a bit of a moment. It was Team Vikings. Maynard was full sideways through the Moss corner, managed to hang on to it with another car. That was Real Pigs on Motorsport. Both drivers just carried a bit too much speed. They got a little sideways, but managed to get things all safe and sound. This whole race through the start of it has been really intense. Replay up on your screen of what happened. There you saw how sideways that car got as it went through Moss corner. And if you get sideways there, that is a very, very blind corner. You really need to make sure that you feel your way through. So if you come out, there's a car that's sideways, you know, it can be absolutely disastrous for your race.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in this type of race today. As some of these drivers really starting to push as hard as they can, to say the very least, with some of these teams to keep themselves out of the trouble. You look still as some of the Audis now work their way through some of the Mazdas. This is the battle for third position. This is Focht Autotech Sim Racing's 151, currently holding on in front of Full Send Racing. Steen Ledger looking to try and get himself into the podium spot for the time being. Has the better run through Moss and passes the spinning car. Fabian Alexander Bohr is around, ran the curbs too hard, losing a ton of spots, and stuck, cannot rejoin, causing contact. Sork racing door to door with Team Vikings as Team Vikings saved it.
Well, there's one of the problems. That was actually not, though, on the fact of Autotech Sim Racing, because Team Vikings, they got punted around by the S-Block machine and Zachary Buchanan. Replay now up on your screen of what happened with the second piece of contact. So that was an interesting scenario, to say the least. Here you are on board with the Vikings machine. Doesn't ever make contact with the car. Right there was the contact that sent him around. Beautiful save for the Audi. Working the wheel, first to the right, then back to the left to make sure it doesn't hook into the concrete barrier.
Yeah, that could have been even worse. That was a tough spot to try and rejoin in the first place. Even tougher spot to try and dodge the cars. Team Vikings still now holding on as Rachel Williams moves out of the way in the Mazda MX-5, but could have been much, much worse at this point. Still a ways to go here in this race. We still have 2 hours and 15 minutes. And one car is off the racing line. Sork Racing now off into the grass. They have severe right front damage.
Oh dear, so S-Rock Racing Orange, it's all gone wrong for them today. This is just, it's all falling apart for so many drivers. And he clipped the curbing big time through turn number 2, cut it a bit too tight, bounced over the grass, 2 wheels in the air, then went clean off and into the tire barriers. There's the replay, the huge leap, and then there's another leap as he hit the barriers hard. This whole race is just falling apart for everybody so far.
At this point, what do you do as a driver? Because this has just been a crazy round to start things off, to say the very least. And we just had trouble for 7th place. Looks like the 7th place car, or should I say the slow racing machine, amongst some of the drivers that were getting into a dicey spot for position, as now they have lost a ton of positions because of this.
It was a slide through Moss corner, just got too much curb and tried to hang on to it. It was a great effort to try to hang on to it, but it didn't work out. They did a good job of keeping that out of the field, and good awareness with the drivers behind to try to keep it out of them as well. This is on board now with Thomas Erkson as we begin to thunder down the hill up towards the Moss corner. So where exactly did it take too much curb? And I think it was right on the entry, right about there. Yes, it was. And the car got a little up in the air, and good job, good effort to try to hang on to it. It didn't quite work out, but again, a good job to at least get it off the track to make sure it wasn't a big incident.
That drops them all the way back down to about 9th position. And we got a black flag on the racetrack to Sasso Prosen for 1 lap hold. Remember that unsafe rejoin situation involving the 75? Involving in front of some of the cars in front of the field. They have just been given a stop and hold for 1 full lap for that on the first lap, turn number 7. Or should I say that would be Moss corner. So they have to serve. That's the 75 machine.
Oh, that is absolutely devastating for their race. A one lap stop and hold. That is a lot of time that they're going to have to make back up. And I'm not quite sure if they're going to be able to make it back up, in all honesty. They're
in trouble for Thomas Ertzen. The 76 has just gone off the track. They just lost some time as one other car, Imperial Suro Sim Racing, had spun the 12th position car in the sport class. As you look at the battles going on just up the road, so everyone having problems today.
Well, we knew this would happen coming in. We knew it was going to be such a difficult race with a difficult place to pass. And they're really kind of proving the point at this point that we're looking at Fisher Motorsport's Manuel Meyer for their another race. It was with an Audi, got pinched around and took out of the auto at the same time. And there goes another push, a big incident, and that was a huge hit.
And that collected a Mazda, and we've got more trouble in live action because Full Send Racing, just as we were showing that, collected a Mazda on the road as they crashed alongside what appears to be Quebec corner. Yes, they came hard. That is this car right here. You see it up on your screen as they had some trouble as they came across the racetrack.
Oh, dearie me. So, again, it's just more stuff going wrong. What happened here, though? Berniger through turn number 2. There's the Mazda right ahead. I think that's one of the huge-ass Mazdas right ahead of them. Thundering down the hill, goes up, tries to look, gets a little checked up bit, maybe a little bit impatient, goes around and off and into the grass, clips the tire barriers. He was all the way by the wall, though, when we went to live pictures and saw him. Oh, he's going to come back across the track and does get hit. Come on, guys. What is going on in the first 25 minutes of this race? You know, we were hoping we wouldn't have to see another VSC like we saw at Brands Hatch, but that's just looking more and more imminent at this point.
That was Tri Racing that ended up getting damaged from all of that. And my goodness, this has been a wild one, and we are 15-20 minutes into the racing action. We're only reaching the 2 hours and 10 minutes to go mark in this race here today. Oh, by the way, as you can tell, all the Porsches and the Audis are currently mixing up in traffic. That's why all the attrition's starting to battle up as well. But most of the sport class is through for some space for half the racetrack for the time being.
So it looks like things are starting to split up a little bit more. Things are getting really, really intense right now with everybody trying to bottleneck each other, it seems, at every given point. It is just absolutely, it's absolutely incredible, and it looks like there's a little message on the screen. That's our producer's thoughts on everything that's going on right about now.
That is Connor Rematic, our director, giving that message. Yeah, it's been that type of a race so far. Overall, your leader is NAB Racing, by the way, by 4.7 seconds over Racecraft Esports Slide for the sport class. With the Audis for the TCR class, Team Hoichingveld, though, has been keeping it nice and calm. They've been up in front by about 2 seconds as this has all been going on with Alpine Stars Geodesic. And you see a lot of the traffic. This is second on back for the sport class, now trying to cut their way through some of the leaders for the Audis.
Oh boy, they're going to have to be real careful here. Well, a majority of our incidents have been seen with some lap traffic coming up to this very corner now. So here's where it's going to be the question. Who's going to get pinched around this time? Northside Racing trying to look around the huge-ass Audi, but can't find the way through. Everybody's safe and sound, though, through the corners. So things are beginning to look up a little bit more as the time goes on. It looks like we're finally going to get a little break between all of these incidents that we've been seeing. As looks like...
And we got trouble for the 2-car. The 2-car at the back of the line for some of the traffic. They're still getting clear up the front of the field. But at the back of the field, in the same amount of traffic, there was contact behind some of the... with another one of the Audis. They try to go 3 wide. This was for position for the top 10.
Oh boy. So what in the... Again, what happened to bring out this one? There we're going to go 3 wide. With an Audi to try to go. Does the Porsche try? Oh, there's the contact, and it was again an Audi that did not yield to the last car, did not want to yield, it didn't look like. pinch one of the Porsches around, and that caused another big incident.
At this point, what's your message if you're a team manager to some of the drivers seeing what's happening up on the screens?
Oh, big crash up front. One car just went hard into the barrier. North side racing just went straight on in turn number 3, hard on the brakes, and went big into the barriers and buried the nose. Engine hood is off of that machine.
And this is the 80 machine. This was third in the Porsches. And looked like if you take a look at the right side tires, they clipped the grass just a little bit too much. Bye-bye race car.
There you see it straight on there, trying to lock it down, and that was a tremendous impact to the tire barrier. This is going to destroy the car. They're going to have to pit to fix the damage on that car, no doubt about it in my mind. Going back to your question about what do you say as a team manager, calm it down. That's what I say as Alan Gross just about wipes out another Porsche that's trying to get around him. They're still just about wrecking with each other. Holy cow, come on guys, you need to calm it down. This is going to end in a disaster so quickly.
He kept on going. As you can see here, as some of the traffic tried to get through, they were going 2 or 3 wide, and then boom, into the Armco barrier, nearly came up into the traffic. At least he tried to get it to the pit lane. But should note, in live action, as you see him pull off to the garage area, the battle for second in the sport class is on. Hell Racers from 11th to 3rd, looking to battle with Racecraft Esports Slide, and Taj Edwards' Gold Racing Team Red Car also is in this fight.
So Victor Tanaka looking to try and hang on against Marcus Simonson from the Hell Racers. These are 2 of the more competitive Porsches, and you saw Taj Edwards down in 4th place almost get into the back of Simonson as things went through. Just about a quarter of a second separated them. The draft is going to be all so powerful. Tanaka is hard on the defensive line as they come up to one of the final corners. Simonson's going to look to the left. They're approaching the lap traffic though, and oh, look out, Tanaka going to try to get his nose in there around Aaron D. Taylor, going to get that in. He's now approaching another battle for position and steps the back end down, trying to work his way through and put some kind of distance between himself and Simonson. And again, more close calls, and we're not even a half hour into this race yet.
Everyone diving their way to the inside of the traffic. Again, that battle you see that's being referenced to, that is the battle for 3rd position in the TCR class as they try and keep things safe. Gold Racing Team Red electing to back off while Racecraft Esports Slide were able to slide on through with Hell Racers pretty quickly. And all of a sudden, the 3-car battle was broken to just 2. As this is all shaped up, you see some of the time gained by Hell Racers again. They start in 11th position, a heck of a ride for Marcus Simonson so far in that machine.
Oh, contact! And Taj Edwards in 4th place in the sport class, clean off more contact with the Audis. In your battle for 3rd, it was the Sim RC ClubSport machine that got into him and sent the Porsche skating through the grass, and Edwards came right back on, right in front of the VEC Sim Sport machine in the Moss corner.
Yeah, came right in front, the front nose just about there, and nearly sent it back into those 3 other cars. Was able to lock it on down, lost a lot of time, but now they get to keep on going into a fight for 4th position. Murakami Racing trying to take it on the high side off the Mario Andretti straightaway does. Able to take advantage of the situation, but they have to go through the traffic again. Alex Albert also in the mix of the battle. Should note, Hunto Searle Sim Racing has just sent their car into the pit lane. They were in 16th position in the same class.
And another black flag was just handed out as well. Paul Van Vloon was just given, I believe it was a 60-second stop and hold for an unsafe rejoin back on lap number 9. So that was a few laps ago that this happened. So things are definitely beginning to pick up, to say the least. And I think Race Control, with everything that's going on, they're going to have their hands full in this race.
That's the 185 machine of Full Send Racing, one of the TCRs that was given that penalty. They are serving that right now as you look at the battle still up on your screen with some of the traffic. It's going to get difficult. Your thoughts here on how you try and time this up now to make sure you don't get into attrition while trying to make these passes work, while also potentially using those same cars as picks as we just see.
You got to make sure that you try and this is right and that you're actually ahead of the car, but your other opponent is not when they get through to the braking zones. That's going to be the crucial point for things here. Marikai Racing did a good job of that, using the Moss corner and that Audi as a pick to try to pull a gap, and he's done that beautifully. And now he's able to kind of pull a bit of a gap here and get himself some breathing room.
Yeah, the gap right now about 5 or so car lengths at least for the position. Marikai Racing was in the mix for the lead pack before. Some of that incidents we've seen before off into turn number 8. So trying to pick up some time. The gap is 18.8 seconds, about 8 seconds back of where Hell Racers and Racecraft Esports Slide is. Hell Racers in front of them, and Racecraft Esports Slide does have a bit of damage now on the race car in the 3rd position.
So, yes, indeed, it looks like Hell Racers is having a little bit of problems. Racecraft having a little bit of problems. I'm getting myself a bit flustered here with that damage on the car, but we do have the eyes on the battle for 2nd place overall between Hell Racers and Racecraft Esports Slide. That battle has closed in to about 3/4 tenths of a second right now, and it'll be Victor Tanaka to have that draft, trying to run down Marcus Simonson down the Andretti Straight.
You can see the difference in the slipstream, how much it can help you keep yourself into the position battle. Oh, Tanaka just couldn't get quite of a run to make any sort of move quite yet, just staying within a car length or 2. How big, in your opinion, is the Mario Andretti straightaway to help out with that situation at this point?
It is a difficult type of scenario, I think, to say the very least. Things are going all over the place because this has just been an absolute, I think it's safe to say this has been a little bit messy for the first portion of this race. You're looking at your battle for 4th place now in your TCR class, and that's got some Porsches trying to work their way through. This is Aaron Taylor and Steen Ledger, 2 drivers that, have met before on track, and they are still trying to fight it through. We got some Porsches trying to work their way through behind them. It is your battle for 9th that's right behind these 2 Audis.
Black flag for Racecraft Esports Slide for avoidable contact, lap 9, turn 4. So that position battle we were just keeping up with for 2nd for the sport class, it's over essentially for the time being, because Victor Tanaka going to have to serve that stop and go in that spot as you keep up still with P number 4 for the Audis. Still trying to battle as well, though, is 49 Motorsports through the traffic. That's the 10th place car just behind this, and breaking things up for Steen Ledger. So, some more contact leading to more black flags, to say the very least.
And it's looking like we might have one more en route, and if we do, it would be for the S-Rock Racing Machine for a potential dive bomb back on lap number 14. That report was filed by Graphite Racing, so we'll have to wait and see what becomes of that. Here is we're still keeping eyes, though. No, we're going to keep eyes on the battle for 9th. They went side by side to the corner, and they did manage to get themselves single filed out. Things are definitely picking up, and it's all heating up as well, as there is the Racecraft Esports Slide Machine Victor Tanaka, who just finished serving that penalty. He's going to be coming back out onto the track.
That'll drop him all the way back to 8th position. Again, we're fighting for 2nd on the racing circuit. As this has all been going on, NAB Racing is still in the lead with 2 hours to go in the class by 8 seconds now over Hell Racers. Don't forget, though, that anything can happen. NAB Racing having a stellar race so far. They've kept the car very clean, and that car's looked very stylish so far today.
Certainly has. That NAB Racing Machine, they were on pole. They lost the lead early in the race, but they were quick to get it back. And now they're looking to hang on to it. They have a good 7-second gap on this field. So that is exactly what Nick Thyssen wants to see. Marcus Simonson got some work ahead of him if he wants to reel in that 7-second gap. So far, though, the way NAB Racing has been pulling away, it's looking more and more unlikely. But like you said, anything can happen.
Yeah, as this has all been shaping up, mind you, it is still very close for the TCR class still, where Sven Glatzel still is in the lead with Team Pointingveld's 148 machine. But right now, having to deal with Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing. One of the top drivers this season, Blake Neck, is keeping within range at the moment as they dodge their way through a ton of traffic, both trying to pass them and traffic they have to pass in the Mazda MX-5s, including Brandon Hawkin, the class leader in that side.
So Neck having to yield to a Porsche that was on its way through, but the race leader just got held up by Miata, and now the Porsche between them is getting held up by lap traffic. This is one of those cases where you have to be patient. The frustration, it's very easy to get to you. You have to make sure that, you know, you keep that cool head. Now more than ever is going to be, it's going to be crucial for them to try to, you know, make sure that they don't get into any kind of a wreck. And right now, the way Neck was slowly reeling in Sven Glatzel, the battle might be gone for now, but it certainly is not going to be over.
Absolutely right now, as you still take a look at some of the battles just up the road. Key number 7 heating up. That make it key number 6 for H2 Performance SRT. They let on by Team Heli Media. That is Matthias Havdahl. Remember, who jumped the start and is trying to charge back up to the field right now, 31 seconds behind the race leader. But he's one of the fastest cars on the racetrack at the moment, has set the fastest purple time for the class so far today.
So very interesting on this between, you know, the different fastest laps of the class and, of course, the fast laps overall. Looking back now to your battle for the Audi lead, which is again closed into 0.4 of a second. So it's looking like Geodesic Racing is definitely going to be wanting to get through Heuchenfeld, and it isn't going to be long before they find their way. The matter is going to be, you know, they're going to have to try to find their own way through. And now they got Thomas Ernsten right on their heels as well in the slowracing.com esports machine that's going to go by around the right side of that Geodesic Racing machine that was beautifully timed. But it might check up Glatzel here and put him at a disadvantage as they enter Moss. It looks like Ernst is going to be, again, he's not going to be patient. Ernst is going to go up the inside. That will put Glatzel at a little disadvantage. And he's going to have to take a little bit of a wider line, which could give Neck the advantage.
We'll see if Neck can be able to take advantage of the slipstream, this time down the Mario Andretti straightaway. Still an hour and 56 minutes on the clock, an estimated 80 to go for the class. Just couldn't gain too much time at all. 134 miles an hour, dead even on speed down the straightaway. But they'll say hello to Jeffrey Granzato, who has come in behind in the Gold Racing Team white machine. Side by side just behind them. This is for position CXR Project Black. Fighting hard with SimRC ClubSport. Rudolf Nagel able to defend for the time being though. But here comes the dive into White's corner. Aaron Taylor trying to give the squeeze down the front stretch.
So Aaron Taylor, they're side by side and oh so close to each other. Taylor has that line in the turn 1 and Nagel will let him go. Oh, cuts off and actually cuts off that Porsche right behind them, which was 13th overall. While this was going on, we did have another black flag just come down, and that was on Real Pixel Motorsports' Wolfgang Wildenauer, who was just given another black flag, this one for avoidable contact. It's for a stop and go back on lap number 11. So things are going to be, it's going to get interesting here. The machine has gone through, and now your battle for 4th can more or less get back on the way. But Nagel's going to have some work. He's going to have to try catch the Taylor. Lost a lot of time with that traffic.
Aaron Taylor, remember, went off the track himself and lost some time. Heck of a drive to cut back up to the field quickly as he lets by some of the traffic. Still, anything can happen with a minute 54 and 25 seconds to go on the clock for these cars at the moment. Should note a black flag may be coming down for Sork Racing. Remember, they also had some contact. They might be getting ready for a potential penalty for contact.
That is going to be a question as to whether this is going to happen. So we'll have to, I guess, wait and see on things on that note. So things are going to get interesting, especially for S-Rock Racing Orange. The penalty has not been confirmed yet, but you know, it could come down at any given time at this point. And we're thinking it's going to get more and more inevitable as time goes on.
Yeah, right now, it looks like it will come down to stop and go. They've given him a 30-second hold as you follow along with the battle for 4th position overall. Huge ass Porsche able to fight side by side with Taj Edwards this lap, but now having to get around the Evolve Racing Team orange machine. The Evolve Racing Team able to keep it on the racetrack is led by the traffic, as now they try and scrap still for 4th position.
So the battle for fourth in Porsche class is on. Edwards taking a bit of a tighter line through turn one. That's gained him a bit, about half a tenth or so on Alex Albert right ahead of them. They've got some Miatas though, and an Audi ahead of them to work their way through. And it is a huge-ass teammate that's going to let Alex Albert through without any worries, and Taj Edwards going to be forced to take a wider line. That will lose him out on some time. Could potentially gain that back though on this Audi, which is no doubt going to be holding them up through Moss.
Indeed, here we'll see how they handle the traffic here. Again, it's German Sim Racing Orange up in front of them now that they'll have to get on by. Murakami Racing back within reach, though, for these two drivers. They're in the 121s. Compare that to Murakami Racing 121.7. So their times are nearly identical. But Gold Racing Team Red has the slipstream this lap. Side by side again. This time on the inside they go down the Mario Andretti straightaway. And trade positions they do. Up to fourth goes GRT Red.
Albert did not fight back on that too hard. He kind of let that one go. So Albert, I think, realizing that they still have a lot of time in this race, and there's no need to defend all too hard. Not to mention, you have all of this lap traffic ahead of you need to work through as well. So I think he's more than content at this point to just kind of wait in the wings and kind of see what could happen yet. It's going to be Edwards who's going to have to take the less than optimal line around some TCRs. Oh, and he's going to get pinned on the outside of the corner. Could that give Alex Albert the chance? It doesn't look like it will, because Albert at the same time was held up by the same TCR.
And it looks like the huge Josh machine trying to gain up some time, but the late braking as Graphite Racing's Richard Bell stays on the inside. Marcello Pagnon stays on the outside as both of them get through and now have some clean space to try and catch up to Murakami Racing and fight for this position once more. Heck of a scrap here for the fourth position, and it shows again how much effect you can have if you time it up right and have enough speed off of the Moss corner to try and get a run back.
And I don't think Albert got the best run that he needed off of Moss, because he's not going to be nearly close enough to Edwards to be able to get that position back. So Albert is going to have to yield it. He's going to have to wait and try to reel him in. Vanokar, Brandon Hawken will let Albert through. So things are getting a little bit scrappy. Looking further back, your battle for 7th overall. Racecraft Esports Slide now getting held up by an Audi. He is trying to fend off Matthias Havdahl for the Hella Media machine.
Should note there was some near trouble for two drivers at the end of the sport class in front of the TCR leaders in the past lap. After they lost control out of Moss corner, Rev Match Esports spun the car around sideways through the dirt, through the middle portion of Moss corner, collected one other car just as the TCRs were coming through. Let's try and take a look at this one. They had contact on the right side door after sliding through the dirt. It would be on the previous lap for this team. The previous lap that lost them a ton of time and nearly collected the TCR leaders.
There you have it. There you see the car sitting sideways on the track, and yeah, SRT completely unsighted by that crash. Definitely was a reaction started. You saw the SRT machine try to lock it down, but the car shot sideways and ended up getting collected. So Clays carried too much speed, spun it sideways and brought it to a stop at the track, and there's the Porsche who just didn't expect him there. Good job on the Audis though to manage to find a way through clean. And it looks like that SRT machine was just caught up at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Indeed, they ended up going off to the pit lane to get some repairs done this previous lap. So unfortunate for them as the battling continues on across the field at this point. One of the battles that's going on is seeing one car off in the grass. That is Nick getting on through. That is for the lead.
Oh dear, so Blake Neck making a big mistake, and that will allow
Team Hoinchenveld was the car off. Blake Neck is the man with the pass, Nolan.
Excuse me on that one. So again, a little bit of an error on my front. So yeah, Team Hoinchenveld, Sven Glatzel, the driver making the mistake. Was it too much speed into the corner? Oh, it was. No way he was going to make the corner going that fast. Again, good job to get that car under control, but it was enough to allow Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing's Blake Neck to get through into the lead. Now, Hoinchenfeld, we saw they had Well, I think they had a considerable gap at one point in time. Do you reckon that maybe they could try to run him down and retake that lead?
I think so. They've been very identical nearly on the lap time so far. And it's going to be the question, can he get back in the focus? You can see Neck able to keep it on the racing line as he's seen the leader go off into the sand trap at Moss Corner. And now, Neck is going to have to hold on. He's been one of the top drivers overall this season. He is tied for the driver standings lead entering today with Raf van der Linden for today's racing action. Can he hold on is going to be one of the main questions. And our question, how will P10 sort out? Slow racing, losing a second last time by, but they're trying to get the position back here.
So it's looking like your battle for 10th overall with Gold Racing Team White and SlowRacing.com Esports Machine. They are trying to find their way through. And it's going to be a question as to, again, whether they can
trouble
catch
for Hell Racers. They went off the racetrack and lost a ton of time. They closed the gap to 3.5 seconds to Nab Racing before they lost it in Moss Corner. Another driver taking the middle portion of 5A and 5B too hard and too wide sent them loose.
Well, you said at the top of the broadcast that Moss Corner was going to be one of the big danger zones, and so far, that's where a majority of the races have gone out. Simonson did stick in the power to get that car spun around quickly and get it back onto the track, but he did lose a considerable amount of time. And again, Nab Racing, they have been cut a little bit of a break, so things have been shaping up for Nab Racing so far in this one. But we did notice the gap was closing, and there is still time to get that gap to close back down again.
That was from 8 seconds, mind you, that gap. It's going to be the question, can everyone else close it? Hell Racers, the gap is back up to 10 seconds for the lead. The Gold Racing Team Red, they're still in the middle of this scrap. They've been fighting like cats and dogs for this spot, and there is one more spot. That is Marikai Racing that is off the racetrack. They end up moving up to 3rd position and 4th respectively. That was off of Clayton Corner.
That was Taj Edwards. Not Taj Edwards, that was Lewis Ward for the Moroccan Racing Machine. And he tried, it looks like he was a little unsighted by the Audi that was coming across the track and tried to take evasive action into the grass. Again, usually when you go off at turn 2 like that, you're going to end up in the barrier. So it was good drive from Ward to get the car slowed down and out of the wall. Was he expecting the Audi to come across the track? There you see the slowing rates, and he was trying to get around the Audi and just took too much speed around the outside of the corner.
You can see how much he fought with the car a little bit there to keep it straight and get himself back on the racing circuit. By the way, let's take one more. Let's go up to the TCR lead, because while that fight's been going on, Team Pointing Vogue quickly reeled back in Team All-Stars Geodesic Racing for that class lead. You can see how much time gained the past 2 laps alone to close the gap and how much he charged this time.
So Glatzel looking very determined to retake that lead and probably keep it this time. The gap is about 4 tenths, looking to about half a second maybe. We're going to have to see. It is hanging about, 6 tenths, 5 tenths right about now. So the question will be, how well of a run will Glatzel get off of the Moss Corner? It looks like they took about the same lines. But again, Glatzel has the slipstream. He's got that working for him right now.
Yeah, that's one of the major things. Let's see how much he can close this time. The speed difference, about a couple miles an hour towards the end of the Mario Andretti straightaway towards the S's. One of the main differences in their driving lines, Glatzel has been deeper on the brakes. Neck has been a little bit more conservative so far, with the estimated 72 laps to go as they charge their way into Moss. They'll also have to let by Hell Racers this lap, as they are now going to have to deal with the Porsche right on the back bumper.
So this Porsche might split things up for this battle, and it looks like it will, trying to still kind of slice its way through. It's going to get by on the inside of the corner, and in fact, it won't split it up at all because Glatzel right on the back end. That is one of the Movano cars, though, that this battle is approaching. Geodesic Racing looking around the outside, and here comes Hoichenfeld up the inside. They're going to say thank you very much for that position. They're going to try to split the Movano car, looking for 3 wide, but Geodesic Racing disaster for them as they get held up behind Movado.
Able to take advantage, Glatzel that time. Let's take a look once more. And you can tell what the thought process was, thinking about going to the outside and thinking, will we move back to the inside instead? Just the prediction of the lines just didn't work out at the right time.
Really didn't. Geodesic Racing thought he might be able to make something around the outside, and in fact, that was the exact move that Hohenfeld needed to put themselves back up into the class lead. So they're going to say, thank you very much for that kind donation to our race today.
Oh, trouble for 49 Motorsports. They charged their way up to 7th. They lost it now off of Moss Corner. This time, this will lose them a few more spots. They were in a position battle with Racecraft Esports Slide before they slid their way into the grass.
It's again something we've seen, and no doubt it's going to be either too much speed or too much curve. It is definitely going to be too much speed. Got to the outside curve, and that's the center of the round. That was very, very close with another Porsche that was right behind them that nearly clobbered them as he spun around.
And you can see how much positions were lost because of that. All the way back down the running order they go into the traffic. Back to at least 14th position because of that spin. And they also ended up towing in the end after the spin. So they are off the racing surface officially. But Nav Racing, they're still up in front, and now they're gaining time over Hell Racers. They gained 1.4 seconds since the last time we checked in on them.
So Nav Racing looking to quickly extend that gap. Gained over a second on the last lap alone on Marcus Simonson. So Nav Racing, again, things are just clicking into place for them this race. And if they can continue to pull away at this point, we might see another dominating performance like we saw from the Hella Media Machine at Brands Hatch last month back in December. So things could shape up very beautifully for Nav Racing in this one if they can, just keep the car clean and not make any mistakes, which so far they've been doing a good job of doing. That is a fight in your Audi class that just came up on screen, and somebody nearly was almost just given the bump and run.
Yeah, this has been an interesting scrap. This is for 9th, 10th, 11th on back at the moment. It is Farked Auto Tech currently holding on to the position, but Real Pixel Motorsport, Hugh Jazz, is also in the battle. E-Team Brit is also hanging on to the back end of the draft, about 2 seconds behind all of this. So they're keeping a close eye on how this is going to turn out. These cars have been scrapping for about 15 minutes, give or take, in this mix, all connected up in a train essentially since the drop of the green flag.
And now this train is going to move its way around the right side of a Miata, and at the same time they have a Porsche trying to make its way through as well. It's one of the Hella Media Machines that's trying to make its way through all of this lap traffic behind them. So you could take a look at this from the air. There is some of the Audis working their way through. That Porsche is being incredibly patient right now, and it is a good thing to see that this Porsche is being patient because these guys are battling hard up front. Everybody's kind of trying to reel things in. Thomas Benninger for the Full Send Racing is actually a couple laps down and is ahead of this field, so we are approaching, interclass lapping at this point. And Tom Van Putt for Graphite Racing is the car that they're trying to get around.
And one car has clipped the apron and the rumble strips. Farked Auto Tech Sim Racing nearly collected a Porsche as they looped it along the rumble strips, nearly collected the Heli Media number 60. They still keep on scrapping though, so everyone's still keeping themselves straight down the Mario Andretti straight away as more cars charge up.
Oh, that was a really close call. There you have it on the replay. Good reflexes from Fabian Alexander Baller to keep that machine under control. Holy cow, that was unbelievably close. We're talking inches separating those two cars from making contact.
And why do you think it's been so difficult for some of the drivers to time up the speed to make sure they don't go off in that particular portion of the racetrack? Because we've seen 10 of those drivers, at least 10 times, drivers do that today.
Well, I think it is a very difficult corner, and it is a very blind corner. You can't really see what's up and over the hill and past the apex, so you're constantly having to kind of judge things by feel. You really have to feel your way through the corner. That's why it's so incredibly difficult. It's definitely the most difficult corner on the track, and if you're carrying even a mile, even like a couple miles an hour of too much speed, you are going to go flying off. You have to be so incredibly precise.
Following along with E-Team Brit at the moment, and they're having a solid race so far. Now they're up to 11th position up on the board. That is a +8 for them so far here, Nolan.
So +8 from the E-Team Brits, and they are having a good day to say the least. Like you said, they've made their way up about 8 spots from the start of today's race. Make that 9 now, so Anthony Beck doing a very good job for that team. They seem to definitely have the race pace down.
And this is, for E-Team Brit, an all-disabled sim racing team, is the newest arm of the Motorsport's most inspirational team. It was set up in the summertime, this organization, and is the world-leading, has access to world-leading hand controls used by the team on the racetrack that gives them access to the best of the racing technology for their home sim setups here in competition for iRacing. So an absolutely stellar run for them so far in the scrap for top 10, trying to battle with Huge Azadi here.
It very is, and it's like you said, it's a very inspirational team because they're able to make things work for them. It is definitely different, you know, racing kind of in their position, but it shows just how dedicated they are to the sport and how much they want to try to do well. Got one car that just went off ahead of them. It was Brandon Hawken that almost went off, had to take evasive action and almost went off the track and spun it around up ahead. Managed to hang on to that one, so we don't have to quite go to anything. But going back to E-Team Brit, you know, very inspirational team. Good thing to see them still racing today. And, you know, I think we're all hoping that they can pull away with the top 10 finish today.
Indeed, we do have a couple pit stops for some of the drivers that are off Cycle Element Sim Racing, as well as a couple of our TCRs have come in and out. German Sim Racing just ducked down for their Scion entry, so we are seeing pit stops for some of the teams right now. And this is something we haven't discussed quite yet. This is one of the toughest pit lanes in all of iRacing because the pit boxes are so tight on the track and so difficult to make sure you get into the stalls properly.
And the way this track is, with how short the laps can be here, it is crucial that you get those, you know, that you get those pit stalls right and that you don't slide them. Speaking of pit stops, E-Team Brit now is down and into the pits. They are going to be coming down in their pit stall right at the end. And just like we were talking about, slid the pit stall and had to throw it into reverse. And they are going to be going for a driver change as well.
Now, the main thing with the driver's changes, remember, the minimum time you can be in the car is 15 minutes. Most of these drivers now within the window to safely run the entire race, essentially, with the driver swap about now. So they elect to take it now as they have reached the end of their fuel cycle. More cars still pitting, some of the Porsches also coming in. So we're seeing multiple drivers. Ben Warren, for example, is now in the E-Team Brit machine. We also have many of the leaders in all of the classes ducking down. So everyone taking their driver swaps now here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Blake Neck, it looks like he is still out on the track and has yet to make that stop. So Neck for Geodesic Racing, still hanging on to that class lead. VEC Sim Racing's Alexandre Gatefrey just came into the pits, might have just slid that pit stall a little bit. Again, very difficult to do. These stalls very tight. Your overall race leader, Nick Thyssen, is down to the pits now.
Hell Racers with a heck of a dive into the pit lane to gain a few more tenths of a second. As Thyssen comes into his pit stall, will he be able to get in is the question along with Hell Racers. Couple drivers do have to back up and into their pit stalls. As you take a look at the dive in from Hell Racers, see how aggressive they took this pit entry.
We'll have to wait and see here on this one. So Simonson, where did he make the dive? Trying to get around Amiada. There he goes into the pits and hard on the brakes, and you did give a bit of a frustrated flash of the headlights of the TCR ahead of them that did check him up on the entry to the pit lane. So Simonson had to have some good reactions to make sure that he didn't drive through the back. A warning has just been given out to the 331 machine for an unsafe rejoin some laps ago.
Indeed, that's for something on lap number 24, turn 6. That was with SRT Esports, by the way. That's the reason for the warning, but everyone coming in here. At this point, what's the strategy, since you still have to at least make one more pit stop for a vast majority of the field here, but a lot of the teams have already taken care of their driver swaps for the day.
Well, it's looking at this point that things are beginning to kind of settle into the rhythm. We've definitely cut back on the incidents a good bit from the start of this race. Still waiting on Taj Edwards to come down to the pits. He might be coming down now. He is going to be coming down now. So at this point in time, you really just got to kind of find the rhythm. You don't really need to push extremely hard now. Just, you know, kind of take it easy, sit back, and let things play out.
Indeed here. Who else what should we keep an eye on here, though, as we approach the final 90 minutes of this race already?
Oh, not a whole lot to say on that right now. We've got just over an hour and a half left. I think the battle for your TCR league could get interesting because Alpine Geodesics Racing has still not come into the pits. They're making that stop now. And remember, them and CXR Team Hoichenfeld were fairly close, and now that Neck is down into the pits.
Oh, he overran the box.
Like, oh no, that will be detrimental for that fight for position. So where is he going to come back out on track? Neck is out of the car. Ralph van der Linden is now into the car.
The two top drivers so far in the driver standings, teammates, and getting ready to come back onto the racetrack as everyone cycles out. Now, going to keep an eye on the time differential right now. Team Hoichenfeld currently cycled behind Full Send Racing in the pit window by 5 seconds. That's because Steam Ledger took less time. They did not go for a driver swap. We'll have to see where the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing machine cycles. Behind Steam Ledger, they'll cycle, but end up cycling right in the middle of a position battle just behind Team Hoichenfeld.
There goes Hoichenfeld around to the outside, but van der Linden is hot on his heels as he exits the pits, now on fresh tires. And Ruben Schilt for the CXR Project Black Machine, he is looking to potentially make his way up and participate in this battle as well.
And going to be interesting to see how Steam Ledger takes this strategy for this run, though, because he did not take the driver swap with the class, so he is on a 23-second stint on the pit stop, rather. Third position is up for grabs, though, as this is going to be a scrap between, as you see on your screen, Team Heli Media on the recovery drive in the 61, Gold Racing Team Red also in the battle. One car did make the driver swap. Edwards stayed in his car with a ton of traffic to go through, along with Racecraft Esports Sly.
Oh boy, here we go. Heli Media kind of looked to the left and ducked back to the right, had a little bit of a change of heart, and it's good that he did because that Audi moved aside to let him through. Edwards trying to look around the left side to get by. Can't make anything work. A little bit earlier on the brakes for Edwards. He realizes that it looks like Golden Pin is going to get held up and nearly run over by Edwards as they exit the corner. So this traffic, it could heat things back up again, and things are definitely heating up. You know, it's a bit of an understatement to say that things are beginning to heat up. Edwards had to check up and take a less optimal line, otherwise he would have completely cleaned out that Heli Media machine.
And remember, two of these drivers yet to make a driver swap. One driver did. That is the car that is in the middle of this battle for second on back in the class. This is 30 seconds behind Nav Racing, who also did not do a driver swap. The difference between if you take one and if you don't, 4 seconds in the pit lane for this class today. As you see both of them, all of them rather, dive their way underneath Tri Racing to get through the traffic. So at this point, how do you take this if you're Team Heli Media, knowing you've already taken your driver swap, but there's still ways to go in this race and you don't want to lose time battling with drivers who have yet to come out of the race car? What do you do in terms of the strategy?
Well, you're going to have to try to make sure that you can, again, time things up. You got to reel in your target, then you got to try to find a way to punch your way through. You know, sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively, kind of depending on the scenario and how much time you really have left to make the move done in this race. Looks like Edwards, he is going to be able to get the optimal line this time. Looks like Heli Media going to get a little bit held up. by the traffic ahead. Heads back off a little bit.
With that under 90 minutes to go up on the clock, most drivers, in fact all, have taken their pit stops so far. Let's go to a Race Spot fan immersion on board with your overall race leader. The 08 machine, NAB Racing, continues to control the field by 30 seconds. You're watching the Club Sport Series powered by DGFX Racing on RacespotTV and the iRacing Esports Network. Been a look through the RacespotTV fan immersion here for the ClubSport series powered by DGFX Racing. Now racing currently cutting its way through some of the traffic. One of the MX-5s you just noticed was off in the grass, but as it's been going on, the battling has been getting a little bit crazy in terms of how Media Gold Racing Team and how racers for that position for third in the Porsches. It separated a lot this past lap because of traffic management. Where we've seen a big amount of time picked up on the racetrack by Team Howie Media and Racecraft Esports Slide to get away from Gold Racing Team Red due to some of the Mazdas.
So things are beginning to heat up significantly in this race. You know, we had the under that, but we just had a swap for position. For P number 2 in your sport class, Kenneth Brandonson for Team Media just finally got by Victor Tanaka for Racecraft Esports Slide. The Media machine went up the inside, coming up to one of the final corners on the track, managed to fight his way through. So battles all over the track have been heating up.
3 wide traffic management this time buys to get by the huge-ass Mazda, along with one of the Audis there, but the race has kind of calmed down from its first 30-40 minutes or so where we've seen so much attrition here. Why do you feel that is where we've gone into a sensible race flow?
Well, I think the reason why things have begun to kind of calm down a little bit more is because, you know, the drivers are not as close together anymore, so there hasn't been as much aggressive fighting for position, to say the least. Where there is still battles, it is, of course, still very intense, such as the battle that we've been seeing for P2 and 3, and even P3 in your TCR class. But overall, things have begun to spread out a bit more, so we've kind of gotten settled into more of a rhythm now.
Indeed, especially since some of the drivers have stayed in the race cars, others have come in for swaps. You see some of the traffic management team, Hoistingfeld currently in the class lead for the TCRs, by the way, still, as that's been all going on, as the traffic management continues on that front. But the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing has fallen back. Let's take a look at the top 8 overall for each of the classes. Right now, NAB Racing in the lead. They start on the pole. They've pulled away by 30.3 seconds. Team Howie Media is in the second position with Racecraft Esports Slide, Gold Racing Team Red, and Team How Racers inside the top 5. Murikai Racing is in 6th position with Gold Racing Team White and H2 Performance SRT rounding out the top 8 for your sport class. Nolan will go through what has been an eventful TCR class next.
Well, in your TCR class, things are still kind of shifting around a bit, but we've got Team Hoichenfeld in the lead from Full Send Racing. Team Hoichenfeld did cycle back through to the top of the standings after the rest of the pit stops were complete. CXR Project Black is down there in 3rd place, about 7 seconds back. Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing and SimRC ClubSport in 4th and 5th. German Sim Racing Cyan in 6th. Team Vikings Bloner. Not quite sure how to pronounce that word, so excuse me if I completely butchered that. Bloner. Thank you for correcting me on that. And then Fac Autotech Sim Racing down in 8th place.
Let's take a look now at your club class where Marcello Pagnon is on top of the board. Yes, you're hearing that right. The driver started at the back of the field in the class, is now leading the class in the 298 for Movado Sim Racing. Here, Josh Mazda's in 2nd spot. Then it's CXR Project Black about a quarter track behind in 3rd. Movado Sim Racing Team's 289 did take a driver swap from Brandon Hawken to put in Racine Vazui, the defending Big C's MX-5 champion. He's in front of World Sim Racing Team, who is in the pit lane. Tri Racing is driving damaged a few laps down behind them. Then the rest of the drivers are off the racing circuit. And Slyfly Racing, Caleb Racing, and Rogers A51 Mazda, should know Caleb Racing, pardon me, is running with a damaged race car, but its front end is crushed in the 263. That's a look at your top 8 running order for a race here on RacespotTV and the iRacing Esports Network. As you follow along now in the battle for 4th position overall, this scrap has been going on for a while. It has seen positions swap this lap though.
Yes, indeed. So Taj Edwards did get through Hampus Baz in the Hellracers machine. So Gold Racing Team Red currently leading that battle for 4th. And no doubt again looking to stay there. But the gap does seem to close considerably as the Gold Racing Team Red machine catches lap traffic at probably the worst possible time, trying to fight their way through the Miatas. And this is going to give Hampus Baz the perfect run that he needs to try to go for an overtake, but he's not able to make it work because there's not the room. As again, lap traffic playing a factor into all of these battles.
It has all day long, it seems, and the more this traffic pops up, the more this is going to help out with Victor Tanaka, to try and reel in Victor Tanaka, who's also dealing with the same thing. So if you can get through Clickway here, Nolan, it will definitely help you gain overall time on the rest of the...
Absolutely. So that's what you want to see is, trying to reel in the gaps and use the lap traffic to your advantage. It is there. It is an inevitability in this race. May as well try to see how can you benefit from this. You're not going to be able to benefit from it nearly all the time. We've seen so many times where other drivers have been completely held up and incidents involving lap traffic as well, where cars have been pinched by lap cars or, cars lapping those lap cars pinched each other trying to get through. But you got to try to find the benefits of things whenever you can.
Should note, we do have one driver off the racetrack, 3 laps down now, and falling down the running order. Huge ass Porsche is in the pit lane getting damage repaired. Unfortunately for them, having some trouble. They were amongst the drivers in the top half of the field in the class. These leaders will pass by down the straightaway as they fight through more of the traffic. Hello, says Marcello Pagnon as they go on by. Try and now fight with VEC Sim Racing to get through the traffic as well.
And Baz is at the worst opportunities, getting pushed right to the edge of the track and just centimeters, millimeters if that, away from the grass. Keeps it in, though, and will duck it down. He's lost some time, though, to Taj Edwards, but he gains that back as Taj Edwards runs wide. Through turn number 3, they throttled their way past the Miata, and now they're down through what is a nearly flat-out left-hander before Moss once again.
The gap, though, is starting to reel down a little bit. They are a little bit quicker right now by about a second or so compared to the battle for second on back. So they are reeling in Team Howie Media and Racecraft Esports Slide at the moment. So they're charged.
They really are charging, so things are trying to shape up here. We could get a battle on third in our hands. You know, later on in this race, Hampus Baz trying to look around the outside of the corner. Couldn't get the dive up the inside, approaching a TCR. This could be crucial for Baz to try to make that move work, but he can't get on the power soon enough. He's not going to be able to make that move on Edwards as they run down to turn number 1.
Still fighting as hard as they can at the moment right now. As it looks like at the moment, though, it might come down to strategy here, Nolan, because the thought process might be save a little bit of fuel, help out with the strategy game, don't fight too hard so you don't lose too much time here. What are your thoughts here? Because right now it looks like they're trying to keep it nice and calm to at least try and reel in second and third.
Well, if you're going to try to keep it calm, you got to make sure that you can keep it quick and calm around the lack of cars as well. And right now, there is a lot of that, including Richard Skender, who's in 12th place. Again, interclass lapping, which is what we're seeing now. That is the DGFX 49 Motorsport machine that is trying to... he's trying to run his own race, but he's got to let them through at some point or another because, again, lead lap traffic trying to work its way on through. So things are going to be... shaping up for your battle for third quite quickly. But I think before we get to that, this battle for fourth is going to have to be settled. One thing to note as well, Nick Thyssen for NAB Racing, his win is looking more and more prominent. He's now got a 32-second gap over this field.
They still have to do a driver swap, but it is looking indeed good as they get through some of the tight traffic up on your screen as Baz gets towards the back bumper of Edwards nearly. But yeah, this is where teams like Edwards will eventually, though, have to sacrifice some time to make a driver swap here.
That is going to be the crucial factor. Will be drivers having to try to make driver swaps. And right now, Hampus Baz is certainly trying to bide his time and maybe try to find a way through, while Edwards is, struggling to get by Richard Skender, because these are two cars that are both pretty much clean and are both definitely very much up to speed. So Skender is trying to run his own race pace again, and Edwards is trying to find a way through and maybe use him as a pick between himself and Baz.
See the lights starting to blink. This is interclass traffic, as you mentioned. 49 Motorsports also trying to cut through some of this traffic themselves. The thing is, they're dead even on speed. Look at how many cars are spread apart this racetrack here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Many of them bunched together. They haven't had a second to breathe, some of these teams, all day long.
And they're not going to get a second to breathe at this rate in time, because when you think it's over, well, a lapped car, whether it be lapping you or being lapped, is going to say, hello, let me introduce myself. And he's going to try to find his way through, or you're going to have to find your own way through. So that is how things are sorting up for this race. And right now, that's what your battle for fourth is trying to look like. Just when you think they're about to get some clean air, they encounter more traffic. And right now, Richard Skender is definitely the lap car to beat in this little fight here.
And the more traffic they reach, the more time you lose. And the more time you lose, the tougher it is to battle. Right there, for example, having to lift off the gas is Taj Edwards to try and deal with the side-by-side battle in front of them, where huge-ass Audis trying to let by 49 Motorsports, where they don't want to end up sending it way too hard here. But this is all allowed a position battle for Hell Racers to get the run, to go side-by-side, nearly for fourth position, as the traffic starts to come into play again in this three-wide battle.
So Hell Racers, can they fight back around the outside? They're going to make it work side by side. Doesn't work terribly often through this corner. Bob's going to make that work, though. He is going to actually clear Taj Edwards. Saw a pass around the outside, executed perfectly by the Hell Racers machine. They are up into fourth place.
The question is for how long? That's going to be key as you take a look at this once more. And this was a dicey one, Nolan, because they were three-wide at first with the traffic, having one car in front, but able to make it stick. They were up on the top side of turn 8. Some drivers in practice overran that section.
Indeed, so Boz did a good job of trying to get that car, the hanger on around the outside, stuck up where the track was rubbered, right at the edge of the racing groove. You can see it was a little bit darker on the track where he passed, and if he was anywhere that was not in the darker gray, he would have been going clean off. Now, though, Taj Edwards has the potential to fight back as they have encountered another Audi that holds up all 3 Porsches as they exit Moss.
And you see as well some of the MX-5s they have to dodge on coming up this road. They are still trying to close up some time. Moving to the left side of the track they go this time, using the slipstream though it looks like as Hell Racers to try and defend.
So Hell Racers is actually using that lap traffic to his advantage, using that as a draft to make sure that he's got about the same run that Taj Edwards will have, but Edwards is right on the back. So Richard Skender is actually doing a good job in helping Pampas Baz to stay ahead of Taj Edwards right now.
And you gotta say this is quality driving from both of them in this position battle to give them some space when they've had opportunities, but also keep on fighting like this. But it's also the thought process of eventually the traffic's gonna have to go through, and this time it's sent off into the tires. Richard Skender hitting the tire barrier hard as he ends up having to check up a bit early.
He checked up really early for the corner, was big on the brakes, and I think Pampas Baz might have actually given him some help to send him into the tires. Probably didn't expect him to be braking that early for the corner. This is a replay. Show you what happened to Richard Skender. He started right there. That's where he started braking, or that's where the braking lights came on, and Baz looked like he was just caught out by that.
Yeah, absolutely was caught out by it, and now the 49 Motorsports machine has towed their car. Bad luck for them. Let's take a look at this from the onboard and take a listen.
So we'll get to see here very clearly what happened to cause this incident. This is on board with Pampas Baz right behind us. Look at how early the brake lights come on. He was definitely, oh yeah, that was contact for sure. There was no way that Baz was expecting to brake that early. You saw how quickly that closing distance was. Almost no time to really react to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And now they still picked up a bit of time despite that situation, but it's still 6 seconds to the next car, but the position battle has broken up by a little bit. Second, though, has stayed red hot, and now they're going to have to cut through some more drivers, including some of their fellow teammates.
Victor Tanaka down in 3rd place, still trying to reel in Kenneth Gulbranson for the Team Helen Media Machine. This is a battle that's been very close, even through our fan immersion some time ago. So these two drivers are very evenly matched, and this battle has swapped positions a few times throughout the course of the past half hour or so. And right now, Gulbranson, he's looking to try to defend however he can.
Now, the question is, how long can he hold on to the defensive battle right now with how it's shaping up? They're approaching the 1 hour to go mark and have the interclass traffic. With what we've seen with the last time we've seen interclass traffic, what do you do if you have, say, a faster driver in your class coming up in your rearview mirror?
Well, I'd say if you have a couple of faster drivers coming up in your rearview mirror and you know they're fighting for position, get out of the way as quickly as possible, because they're not going to be as patient with you to try to find their way through. If they're trying to overtake somebody else or trying to get around, or trying to defend for their own position. So that's something that's going to be key for them to understand. And right now, Lucas Lepere, he's going to be the driver that's going to have to be watching in his mirrors, because Gulbranson is coming up on him quickly.
Absolutely. Right now, you can see right now from the back end of Gulbranson, the car they're reeling in is Lucas Lippard at the moment. So this is going to be curious. Will he let him go by quickly? No is the question at the moment. The slipstream not allowing him to reel in. But Tanaka, remember, does have damage on both ends of his front end. So that might be affecting the slipstream just a little bit, making it where he has to charge a little bit harder on the brakes, like that right there, able to gain 4 car lengths in the braking zone.
Exactly. So this is, how things are able to shape up here. The Hella Media Machine is really trying to hang on as best as he can. Lucas Lepere. Remember Richard Skender, the Porsche, the battle for P4. He did not let the lap traffic through, and in the end, he got sent to the tire barriers. Now the lights are starting to flash for Gulbranson. He wants to get through, and he wants to get through now. And Victor Tanaka, he's trying to find out if he can. It looks like Lepere is going to let Gulbranson through, and now Gulbranson can potentially use that as a pick against Tanaka.
Indeed, right now you can see the difference for the position, technically about 4 or 5 car lengths. Tanaka looking to try and take the corner hard, but can't go as hard as he wants to. Has to stay behind the slower car, which is bobbling Lippert is, as they go to try and get around a VEC sim racing machine as well. Again, you can see losing a few tenths last time by was Tanaka. Now is trying to use the slipstream of Lippert to try and close up the gap for the position.
They're going to be side by side, and Tanaka's going to have the line. Lepere again lets Tanaka go. Now he's going to have to try to reel in Gulbranson, who's got some Porsche traffic and some Audi traffic ahead of him. One of those drivers being Raf van der Linden. That's at the head of this little train, and he's also got Marvin Murbach amidst this as well that he's going to have to try to fight as well.
Indeed, right now, how do you take this still, though? Because right now, you still have to have at least one more pit stop. Do you try and fight as hard as you can now, risk the tires, or do you try and keep it calm and conservative?
At this point in time, I'd say keep it calm and conservative, because like you said, you have one more stop you need to make. Push it all out in the final stint of the race. But right now in the middle portion of this race, you can still keep things kind of relatively safe and sound. Just keep it nice and simple, and you'll eventually be able to work your way through to the point where you can push all out. But there's no point in tearing your race car up early. You've got so much left to go yet.
Approaching the 1 hour even mark at this point, and you can see the traffic management getting very, very tight and difficult now. Tanaka was able to get through, but the problem is he's got to reel in now about a second or so, give or take, just at the very edge of the slipstream of the 61 machine, which could take some time. 1 second even now through the S's heading into White's corner. So now it's going to be about focusing back up, eyes forward, helmet down to try and reel back in the 61 or hope for some traffic management to hold him up.
That is going to be the key factor, is going to be these, the two drivers that are going to be trying to work their way through is going to be the traffic management and, of course, the tire management, because with the new tire models, the fall off could be a bit more severe. It's something that we've heard in the past as Tanaka trying to fight his way around the outside of a Miata through turn to 3, going to make that work. And every time he goes on the outside of one of those cars, he loses that much more time to the car ahead of him. It certainly seems, though, like he has the pace that he needs to try to reel him in, because he is still closing it, and he's closing in quite a hurry. And now, surprisingly, Lucas Lepere is actually still on the back end of Tanaka's draft. Might be trying to save a little bit of fuel from that number 86 machine.
I definitely think he might be trying to save a little bit of fuel indeed, to make sure he can stretch the run a little bit longer and make sure they're in their respective windows in terms of timing for driver swaps, for everything along those lines, to say the very least. Should note, black flag just given to the 9th place car in the class, in H2 Performance SRT, avoidable contact, lap 50, turn 4, so they will serve their penalty right now and sacrifice some track position. They will have to serve the penalty right now. That was one of the last cars on that lap cycle. They'll also be passed by Team Howie Media for position. That will move them down to 11th.
So the penalties are coming down. Oh, we got some trouble, and it's big trouble. One of the Miatas, Shakespeare Racing, Thomas Nuft, has just gone hard into the tire barriers at the exit of turn number 2, clipped the grass, and screamed left and went head-on into the barrier.
And already taken the tow, had already gone in the grass this past lap or so, and watched the corner exit off the curb, because this thing will shoot hard left and big time to the wall.
Oh, that was a big impact. You saw the front end lift up off the ground, and the engine hood came flying off immediately. that shows how hard of a hit that was. It's very easy for these cars to do. We saw it in practice, we saw it in qualifying. These cars, they can get loose oh so easily, and it's so difficult to save them as well when something like that happens. He was hard on the brakes all through that slide trying to hang on to it. It just didn't work though. When that car starts to go around, it's going around whether you like it or not.
Yeah, the grass, not very grippy, to say the very least, as the car is now very much damaged at the moment. But the position battle still keeps up for second. All of a sudden, Gulbranson now having to deal with Tanaka behind him, who's been able to close back in. They still have Lippard with them as well amongst this battle for second.
So far, Tanaka is still hanging on to Gulbranson. He's reeled that gap back in. So I think it's safe to say that with that slipstream, Gulbranson is going to have quite a lot to deal with Tanaka, who's clearly better in the draft. So close through Moss. They have got a whole ton of lap traffic ahead of them, though. You see it through the windshield. They have got a lot of work ahead of them. Things are about to get dicey.
Extremely dicey at this point. They'll pass by some of the class leaders in this slipstream train. And hello, side by side. That's for position element sim racing and E-Team Brit holding things up a little bit and making things very tight this time through the S's.
Oh, and Tanaka gets checked up by the by the Element Sim Racing machine as he went through, but now he's hot on the heels of Gulbranson. They did split up a battle for position in your TCR class, and that is one of the problems. What do you do when you come across lap traffic that are fighting for position with each other? Because they're not going to want to let you through because they're trying to go and passing each other for positions on track, which is, of course, means more valuable points. Tanaka going to get held up again by the TCRs. Gulbranson having to go around the outside.
Gulbranson just getting the grip down on the power. Nearly bobbled towards the right. Dodges back to the left to get on through. As Tanaka looks to try and jump through the window of Moss Corner. Trying to cut it a little bit tighter on the entry, but taking the wider arc. This is why it's so important to get the run. If you can launch off the corner with the executed diamond and get the speed of the slipstream, you can time up this potential drive down the Mario Andretti straightaway. Can he get enough speed, though, to make the move? Not yet. No, indeed. Goes to the outside this time as a Mazda MX-5 says hello.
Oh, he's going to try it. He's going to go up the inside, and it gets cut off again by Hella Media as they cut back to avoid poor Kyle Smith in the Miata, who, those points I bet came flying up in his spear in a hurry. They're trying to find their way through, but because of that Miata, Hella Media manages to hang on again, stepping the back end out through turn number 1, and goes for a little bit of a power slide.
And right now, one car off in the grass. That's Racecraft clipping the grass off the exit of turn number 1. And that is so easy to do. There were drivers losing the back end grip in that section. This time, they overran it and clipped the grass and had to slow off the gas to make sure they didn't lose the whole traction.
Got a bit of a snap of oversteer, it looked like, towards the exit of the corner. That's really what sent the car off and into the grass. It looked like the car kind of had a bit of a bobble through the center at the apex and then slid the car out. That has allowed Lepere back through. And that has just split this battle. And I think what happened there, Tanaka got a little bit impatient, lost his focus, and that is what caused that car to slide up towards the grass. Good car control to keep it out of the wall, because the walls, especially at that section of the track, are so close to the track, it won't take much to send you into them. And now he's going to try to find a way back past Lepere, who is going to let him through without much difficulties. And we've seen he can close in to Gulbranson in a hurry, and he's going to be looking to do that again.
I think Lepere might have noticed, or known at least, I don't want to be in the middle of this position battle again. I know you're a little bit faster. Let you get your feet back together to try and close up the gap. It will take a couple laps, but it is looking pretty decent. Should note, it is a 7/10 of a second difference between 4th and 5th, still between Hell Racers and Gold Racing Team Red, as Taj Edwards is still applying the pressure in that battle. So 2 different red boxes on the racetrack to fight for position here in the 2.4 hours of Mosport in the final hour or so of this action, just 53 minutes on the clock.
You know, it isn't too often that we get to focus on the Porsches so much in these races. Usually we're putting all of our attention over on the TCRs because that's where all the battling seems to be. This time, though, it's definitely been the Porsche class that's been the class to watch today. With all the aggressive battling that we've seen, why do you think that is?
Well, I think really it's just been how the classes have settled out. Right now, Team Hointingveld is leading the TCRs by a decent margin over CXR Project Black, for example. But the difference in closing speed was something we talked about, and it's come into play today, especially for the Porsche machines in today's races. But right now, Team Howie Media dealing with Racecraft Esports slide already up to the back bumper again.
That was a bit strange, really, the Hella Media handle the final few corners. He braked really, really early for all of those corners, and it caught even me by surprise. Tanaka nearly drove through Hella Media trying to get through. Didn't manage to make the look, but now they have caught the TCR traffic, and they're desperately trying to find their way through. Hella Media going to try to take a wider line. Tanaka will have that advantage on the inside, but he's also going to have to swing around to the left from the exit to get by the 112 machine. Still got one more to deal with, and it looks like Branson will be able to use that Audi as a little bit of a pick, but of course, that advantage is going to be gone down this straightaway.
But the traffic is never far away. Branson now passes by with a sim racing.
Tanaka, huge tank slapper off of the corner, got to the grass, and the car bobbled big time, and he had to work that wheel to save that machine. So Tanaka still experiencing some difficulties with that tank slapper on the exit of Mach.
Yeah, got a little bit too much grass and just had to jerk the wheel hard, and I mean hard to the right, to keep that thing straight. Nearly hooked it, and now keeps on going as a result of that little save. Loses some time though. We do have pit stops starting to form up a bit. CXR Project Black has just ducked in the 199 of Philip Russell. He was one of the top cars on the racetrack, so pit window's open for some of the drivers for the top of the fuel window.
So this will be the final pit stop, I believe, for the CXR Project Black Machine's Philip Russell of the day. It looks like they'll be taking some tires as well with that machine, and they are going to be having a little bit of a driver swap as well going into that car. It is going to be Elmar Noteboom that's going to be hopping into the driver's seat for the 199. So the final pit stops are beginning to get underway here in Canada.
We are seeing some of the drivers that are off cycle also ducking down. We've also seen P4 reeled in. Hell Racers now having to play defense before they get ready for their final stops again. Remember that 5th place car does have to make a swap still. The minimum time you can be in the car, 15 minutes. They are approaching towards the top window as they'll duck underneath some more of the traffic. The time's about even, 0.3 of a second gain before by Edwards, but losing some this time with some of the traffic.
And look through the windscreen, up ahead, about 3 cars up. That is 3rd place. So despite this battling, they have reeled in your battle for 3rd. We could be seeing a 4-car scrap for 2nd by the end of this race if they continue to reel them in at the pace they have been. So things are beginning to shape up now for a very intense finish here at the end of this race. Of course, you still got Nav Racing that's 32 seconds ahead, and at this point, I think it's safe to say that Nick Thyssen has been all but confirmed as your Sport Class winner with 49 minutes to go. A bit premature to call that, I know, but he's kept that car so clean throughout this race. It would have surprised me if he's the one that came away with the win.
As that's been going on, though, one thing to note, as we were showing all the crazy battles, we have received word about...
Contact! Sorry for the place! Goldbrand was just punted around by Tanaka in Moss!
Take a look at this. He is stuck in the grass deep along the billboards after significant contact. Sends him around, a shunt from behind from Racecraft. Take a look at this once more. This is in Moss Corner with the hard charge, faster apex speed, leads to contact from the 43 machine off the back bumper through 5B and the stack up.
Oh my goodness, I did not want to see that happen. It was almost inevitable right there. That's where the car got stuck, started to slide backwards even down the hill. So Gulbranson's race was just thrown completely out the window. And just like that, Taj Edwards from 5th place is down into the pits.
One thing to note again, as was getting to though, the club class leader had crashed a few laps ago as well, 6 laps ago. That was involving the E-Team Brit machine. You see Team Heli Media taking a long time to get back straight inside the grass with the loss of traction to try and keep it away from the battling. But as that all shaped up with all the hot battling in the class that led to the climactic finish, Huge Ass Mazda is now the class leader for the club teams.
Well, I don't think we expected this to happen at all, to see the huge-ass Mazda in the lead of this class. Movano has just been so dominant over this entire series in your club class this season. And just like that, that mistake with the Audi for the E-Team Brit machine, they are the ones that ended up getting sent around in this one, trying to find a replay on the screen so we can show you what happened to take your Mazda leader out of contention.
It will be on their 52nd lap. And they have already been warned amongst the unsafe rejoin, but the car was demolished. We're trying to find it as quick as they can. This is the 298 machine that would be involved. That ended up having contact. Again, this would have been down the front straightaway, starting with, involving that E-Team Brit machine, unfortunately collecting them and losing the spot. We've got a warning, though, from Racecraft. They are being told, give up the position to the 61 safely in live action. So, things have shaped up pretty interestingly enough in this one.
So everything kicked off all at once, it would seem. You had their Mazda leader that was taken out. Oh! Victor Tanaka's just gone off. Racecraft Esports slide in turn number 3. He's off and into the grass and will give up 3rd place. Tanaka, another mistake for Esports slide. This is all kicking off all at once here. And just like that, I think it's safe to say that these drivers have decided, yeah, let's not conserve anymore. Let's go all out.
I mean, they've already been told, give up the position to Gulbranson. And might have been trying to sacrifice time. That's a little too much time, maybe. That drops them down the running order a little bit. Should note, pit stops have taken place for some of the Gold Racing Team cars. We also have seen how racers technically cycle up towards the front with some of the pit stops. Frank Van Brandwick is now behind the 08 machine's wheel, while the 43 is still sliding and finally gives up the position as they elect to pit.
So Racecraft Esports slide is down into the pits. The chaos will continue. She's right behind Gulbranson. So these two drivers are fighting hard, and they're going to look to continue to try to fight hard as this race continues to round on down. Both drivers into the pits. Gulbranson was the first one down. Will he be the first one out? That is going to be the big question.
They're already being passed now by NAB Racing with that 30-plus second advantage. But the driver swaps for some of the teams coming in. Remember, Tanaka was in from the start. Team Heli Media also putting in a driver in the 61. John Miller III will drive now the 43 machine as they fix some of the fenders and get ready to come back on the racetrack. They'll cycle behind Murakai Racing, though, along with Hell Racers, and all of that mixture of battling.
This is going to be really close off of the pits because right now, Miller is the first one to get the tires on. Hierdo is also going to be taking tires at the stop, but he was on the jacks second. So Miller might get a jump on him as they exit off a pit road. There he goes. He's starting to roll. Where will Hierdo come down? And he is going to lose the position in the pit stop.
So better pit stop for John Miller III and his team. And they come out side by side and behind Hell Racers, in fact. Hell Racers, though technically the class leaders, by 33 seconds as they turn a Mazda right in front of the battle. Miller III avoids it, while Team Heli Media keeps avoiding any contact.
Kike Martin was the World of Sim Racing Mazda got spun around, and that car is already looking beat up. This was the one thing they did not need to happen to them. live replay up on your screen from the air and watch this. That was the huge-ass Porsche that tried to poke the nose under there, and I'm sorry, there was no room for you there. And Martin, that World of Sim Racing team, has gone off again as they came up to Moss, but that was a move that, in my opinion, should not have even attempted to have been made.
Yeah, that was a bit insane there. The 61 also went off the track, as we've shown that at Moss Corner, and lost even more time. Now, they're behind Gold Racing Team White in the 2 machine. So things really starting to kick off as some of these drivers deal with tires, and look at this traffic they have to get through now.
Oh my goodness, that Porsche, Hoppus Boz, is really fighting his way through hard, trying to work his way through this traffic. An aggressive dive up through the middle. He's going to be able to hang on to it for now as the leader of the class, and all of this is just insanity what we're seeing at this point in time. Miller behind them, trying to work his way past the German Sim Racing Cyan machine. And the battles that we were once seeing and we once thought were going to take place, they're nowhere to be found anymore because of all of that chaos.
Yeah, this has just turned out to be a cracker of a run here all of a sudden here. But it's been a crazy one for the sport class today. Again, should note CXR Project Black's 198 machine is the leader for the TCR class. And there's been differences in strategies there, pretty different. Looking at that, they have yet to make their second pit stop in the race, for example. Team Hoitingveld, Fulsen Racing, and others already have made a second stop. So the question's going to be, when do we see them come in? And they're going to have to dodge a car! That is Graphite Racing's Frank Osterhaus in the middle of the track.
And there was big contact with the Porsche to bring that up as well. This was another incident with lap traffic, and we have more trouble alive as well. Another Porsche has just gone off with more contact from an Audi and a Miata has indeed rolled in turn number 2. That was the huge hit that happened just moments ago, and Tom van der Brande for Tri Racing got into the grass, hit the wall, flipped over with an Audi, and that sent James LeBlanc big into the tire barriers in turn number 2.
Also have this here, looks like with one of the slow racing team machines where they elected to pit. Going down that pit lane and nearly wrecking into the back end of somebody. But should note that car you were mentioning, Nolan, was SRT Esport Green. That car that was collected in that incident in turn number 1 that included that Mazda.
And that Mazda did go for a roll as well in turn number 2, so that was absolutely massive. It was Tri Racing that ended up causing that one, got into the grass, and it just ended in complete disaster. So again, we saw all the chaos at the start of the race. We're seeing even more chaos now. We're getting that replay up to show you what happened, backing it up by a few more seconds. There you see Tri Racing. What in the world caused all of this chaos? There you see the Audi stranded in the track. Watch as he goes around the outside of the Porsche that's getting up to speed, hits the grass, comes back, and flips over right there, collects the Porsche, and that Porsche head on into the tires.
That's bad luck for that Porsche, though. That was the second incident in 2 corners here, Nolan.
And both of them were major, and both of them involving lap traffic as well. So it's just, you hate to see this sort of thing happen, but again, I know we're getting to the end of this race now, but we still have 40 minutes to go. You need to calm down. This is the kind of activity we could see on the last lap. Not when we've got 40 minutes to go still.
CXR Project Black has just come into pit, and it is a battle involving that car, which just avoided the incident. SRT Esport Green still getting repairs, but the 198 of CXR Project Black and Aaron Taylor is now looking to hold on in front of Sven Glatzel for the battle for the class lead for the TCRs. He's back into the car to finish this race.
Now we're getting a chance to see this fight in the TCRs shape up. We saw these guys fighting it out hard at the start of the race. Now Glatzel's trying to make something work. Taylor trying to cover the inside. He's going to be able to do so. Runs a little bit wide. He's into the grass as he tries to go to the lead. He's into the wall as well. Glatzel through to the lead of the TCRs.
Fulsen Racing is up to second position. They have also already made a second pit stop. So now Paul Van Loan is into the top 2. Take a look at this. This pressure was already building. Team Hoichingveld having the better speed, trying to battle the 2 top teams in the class. But watch again, a mistake we've seen many times. Missed the apex of 5A, missed the line for the middle.
Again, too much speed on the entry. That is what ended that car's race in the run for the lead, and we have more TCRs coming down into the pits as well. Everything is just completely going right to a handbasket. We've seen Taylor is back into the pits, so he's given up the fight for second place. And meanwhile, a fight for third on your screens as Full Send Racing goes big defensive against RC ClubSport. They're still side by side through turn 1.
That's Patrick Young, who just hit the right rear tire of Full Send Racing, able to keep it straight, however. This is all only a few seconds behind the overall class leader, who looks to try and run away from all of this. So it's really starting to crack open here as Full Send Racing drifts their way through Quebec.
I think at this point in time, that Hoicheville car in Glatzel is saying, I need to get the heck out of Dodge right now, because this is getting way too intense back here in the back. Patrick, oh, Young is so loose and somehow hangs on to it. This is all going absolutely insane, but he has lost the huge run he would have gotten on Calhoun on Full Send Racing as they enter the Andretti Straight.
Absolutely here, as this is getting a bit very, very dicey here. This could get tighter and tighter. Young looking to move into a podium, higher up into the podium positions for the second spot. It just seems like those back tires don't have as much grip in the 187 compared to Young, who's able to keep it nice and stable on entry.
Yeah, Young is able to close so much time, especially in the fast corners. He's right on the back end of him. And again, it's going to be Calhoun. Will he go defensive this time? He won't. He pulled an aggressive block the last time they went through on the front straightaway, but he's going to keep it clean and green for now. So Calhoun goes on through, takes the optimal line. Will Young try to throw it the inside? He will try to throw it at the inside in the turn 2. Runs off across the track. Calhoun tried to look for a little over-under. Didn't quite work out. So that will allow RC ClubSport up into second place, but they're getting so loose on the back end as they go through turn number 3.
Bit of a bold move there, to say the very least. There, Nolan to be able to stick it on the bottom of Clayton Corner, as well as for the driver on the top side. Good on them for them to stick the traction in that part of the track and avoid the marbles.
Very much so indeed. The marbles are so prominent now, and it's going to be so much more difficult to make moves work on the outsides of these corners than even, say, just an hour ago. So, you know, throughout the middle of the race, we had so much time focused on our Porsche classes for these battles. Well, it looks like the TCRs got a little jealous that they weren't getting all the airtime, so they decided to put on a bit of a show for us here.
And this brings up the question in terms of strategy. A lot of teams going for double stints in this race today, we should note. Other teams did not. Full Send Racing is going in the pit lane for Keith Calhoun. This is interesting.
Very interesting to say the least. Keith Calhoun down into the pits. So things begin to be very interesting. There are 28 laps on their stint, so it looks like this is going to be a scheduled pit stop for Calhoun. One thing I actually just noticed now, what happened to the 30-second gap that Nav Racing have? That's down to 9 seconds now, back to Hell Racers.
Well, here's the thing. 51 seconds in the pit box. They made the driver swap for 1, but 2, I think, Nolan, they took their tires. A lot of the teams, as I was getting towards, have double stinted in this race if they kept the same driver in to save time. And that, in turn, has come into the strategy game. The gap is now 9 seconds. They were about nearly a full second faster last time by.
That is true. Frank Van Brandwyck is now in the car, so they did take a driver swap on the last run in this race. That gap is still closing a fair bit, so that is something to keep an eye on. Can Hampus Baz actually reel in that gap that Nav Racing has held so dominant throughout this race and go for the win?
Team Heli Media is in the midst of a battle still, trying to hold on in front of Racecraft Esports Slide. That is for the top. Remember, they've already had some contact in this race. Both of them did take tires on their last pit stops. 53 seconds for the stalls and for the 61. John Miller, who had the faster of the pit stops, 51 seconds. Trying to close back up and in, but losing a bit of time this lap, as you see the differential negatives for the past 3.
Well, and Heyerdahl actually made the pass for that position 1 lap ago down in turn number 3, so it looks like Heyerdahl definitely has the faster car and actually might be looking to potentially break the draft, and if he can do that, then Racecraft Esports Slide is going to be in some serious trouble in the attempt to try to fight back on that position. Looking back now again to the TCR class, the fight for 6th. German Sim Racing Cyan is all over the back of the huge-ass Audi.
And again, to confirm, NAB Racing, remember, had took tires on their second stop. The team that is in second, Hell Racers, took tires on the first stop. You can see now some of the battling for 6th position for the Audis. German Sim Racing Cyan having a quiet day, but an eventful one with some of the traffic. Huge-ass Audi is in 7th position at the moment. And you can see Michael Derby trying to charge hard on the outside.
So there, we just did receive word about Hell Racers and that potential incident there. They're not going to be taking further action on that one. So Hell Racers be given a little bit of a break.
Oh!
And see, oh, whoa, 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 hello there, and goodbye, good night goes the huge-ass Audi. What happened there?
Had to keep an eye on the left side tires this time because it looks like they hit the curbs in the grass of Quebec this time. Look at all the bouncing as that sent them off in blue.
I looked away for 5 seconds. I looked back to see that car flying into the sand, and yeah, you're right, just got 2 left sides into the grass of the exit. That is the danger of that concrete curbing at the exit of this corner. Watch as it's going to be right there, and it's so little, it's so bumpy on that portion of the track though. You cannot take a risk cutting it that tight. He tried to take that risk, and it did not work out for him.
That car already off to the pit lane to get repairs done. The cars they just got passed by is the battle for 3rd for the sport class. Gold Racing Team Red and Murakai Racing are now scrapping. They were separated by half a second this past time by, lost a bit of time as they got through some of the traffic. They also have Fisher Motorsport hanging on with them at the back end.
I wanted to note though, Fisher Motorsport is a good 10 laps down, so he's not going to be able to play any kind of factor to this race unless he wants to try to go for an overtake, which I would question. For now, Murakai Racing trying to run down Gold Racing Team Red. It certainly has been shaping up big, and now Jean-Philippe Gendra getting held up a bit by Kyle Smith in that huge-ass Audi. That will, in the Miata, excuse me, there is an Audi, though, into the grass, and it's Paul Van Vloon for Full Send Racing. He actually went off entirely at Moss. Again, too much speed into the corner, and he went way into the grass.
Sticking with the battle for the time being, though, you see the slipstream being worked upon. They work now right by Real Pixel Motorsport, and a smart move there by GRT Red, using the Audi as a pick to break up the slipstream for the time being, but they still have a few more Audis to go. Let's take a look at this once more as you've seen the stack up from the car off in the grass. That is Full Send Racing, who was on that different pit cycle and went off into the grass.
Carried a bit too much speed, but as always, it's a mistake we've seen so much today, and almost nicked the wall, and you saw the huge-ass Miata that had to take a little bit of evasive action to get around there as well while they were trying to let that Porsche battle.
That was the class leader in Kyle Smith trying to cut on through. Should note the battle for second for the TCRs. It's closed up. All of a sudden, Blake Neck, who has been putting on a clinic in terms of times, has closed up the gap for second.
So, we're going to be looking back to the TCRs now. Patrick Young has been a driver who we've seen over the course of this Club Sport series. He could be an incredibly talented driver. He demonstrated that in the Radicals in Season 2 last year. And now he's trying to demonstrate that again in the Audis this year. But Blake Neck is in that TCR behind him, and he is trying to find a way through. If he can get by, a little bit of a tank sniper for both of them as they ran down towards Moss. Neck taking a little bit of a tighter line to the apex. He's going to have that slipstream to help him out as they run up through the Andretti straight.
And he's also had the pace, mind you. They were catching, even with the battle that we've seen before with Full Send Racing. They were catching. Patrick Young trying to take the right side line. Neck trying to follow the slipstream. Will he dive to the inside? Will he try? No, because there's a Mazda MX-5 in Craig Molnar there to get on by. We'll have to reset for one more lap of attempting to pass. They are also closing in on a driver on a different cycle in CXR Project Black's 198, as this has all been shaping up. So they will also have that car that will affect the slipstream for the next couple laps or so in the battle.
So Neck, the question will be, he can clearly have the pace to catch him over the course of the lap, but can he get close enough that he can get the run that he needs down the Andretti straight and be able to complete that pass without having any lapped cars? Tom Van de Brande in that Miata that rolled over is still remarkably on course. I think we have to give a little bit of an applause for the tri-race machine that did roll to keep that car is flipped over. There you see it on the track, limping its way around, just trying to log laps at this point in time. Oh, excuse me, letting Neck through.
Have to say, that car, I'm surprised, is still running. It's not looking pretty, but it's running.
Yeah, that's a surprise to me too. I thought that car was done when it flipped. I really did think it was done, and that car is still out there. And a very admirable job by Tom Van de Brande to try to make sure that that doesn't work. Battle for second is on, though, in the Audis. Next, side by side with Young. Young going to be later on the brakes as they come to the final corners on the racetrack, and Neck not able to go for an over-under.
They're still trying to go back for the over-under this time, as couldn't get the run, though, off of White's corner. Here comes one of the Porsches, that is GRT White, the 7th place car in that class, who just hit the inside curbing a bit hard. Now we'll break up this battle just a little bit, heading into Clayton corner. They also will have to deal with Kyle Smith again. They'll say hello to him for the first time in 3 laps or so.
Well, he said the battle's going to be broken up, but I don't think it was, because all of a sudden, Neck all over the back of Patrick Young again. Made a little look. He is going to go for the look here on the exit of turn number 3. They're going to go 3 wide with Neck up the middle. He's going to have to try to fight on the outside. This might end in contact again. Will it be a dive-off from Neck into Moss? He's going to be on the inside, and he's going to get that position done. Can Young cut back and fight around the outside to get that slipstream in the run down the Andretti straight?
That's going to be the major question. Neck has been looking very speedy these past few laps in this entire stint. Still looking to try and pull away to hold on to the second spot. Young not able to gain time, actually losing time in the slipstream a little bit. Braking earlier than Neck. Now Neck's focus, can he catch up to Team Hoistingveld? Is there enough time? They have under 25 minutes on the clock.
I think Young backed off in the straight because he was definitely gaining at the start of that. And then about halfway through, he just stopped pushing. I think he actually let off. Didn't want to go for that move. So it was a bit of an interesting call, to say the least. But, you know, we'll have to see whether that can go. There is about 20 seconds, I think, between Glatzel and Hoichenfeld on the track presently. So I don't think there is enough time, to be frank with you.
Unless there's some type of mistake or a lot of traffic, that might indeed be the case here. Because, again, Team Hoistingveld did take fresher tires, 47 seconds in the pit stop cycle. Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing had a 36-second pit stop for comparison's sake. You're now looking at Murakai Racing, trying to catch up to third still in a slew of traffic. A ton of cars, I should rather say, including Focht Autotech Sim Racing's moving to the right side, the faster cars on the left side as it gets dicey.
Oh boy, look out. Gold Racing Team Red getting very close. to the edge of the racetrack and near the off end of the grass, but managed to keep the car with all four wheels on the island. And Gendron, trying to look up the inside of the lap cars, wasn't close enough. Metharel from Erikai Racing got a bit of a wider arc through the corner. Now going to use first the lap car and then GRT themselves as the pick for the slipstream.
Indeed, right now you look at this at the moment as actually trying to brake to the right a little bit, control the slipstream. They do also have SlowRacing.com esports team's number 2 entry up in front of them as well to use for a bit of slipstream down the straightaways to balance it out. Bad run through White's corner for a Gendron that time, hitting the curbs a little bit. Can Tom Metherol try and dive to the inside? Looked at it, but no, gets a bit too much curve through turn number 1.
Well, he really tried it, let me tell you that. He was looking for it, he was looking a little dicey. It didn't work out for him quite as well, but he didn't decide to try to force the issue for now. He did lose a little bit of time, though, in doing so, because he did take that title line through turn number 1. So, Marikai Racing might have to wait for the GRT red machine.
Oh, and we had trouble for Racecraft Esports Slide. Remember Try Racing? Well, they added a bit more damage to the car as well as to Try Racing's. That again was 6th place in the sport class, collecting Try Racing. This was in the S's. You see it on your screen.
Oh, that time you really can't blame Try Racing for that one. Oh, well, Try Racing really embedded that car into the tire walls hard, didn't they? And this was coming up to White's corner. There, again, that was a move that really should not have been made, if you ask me, for my own opinion on that. That was it wasn't really a gap. I think it's safe to say that Try Racing might be done for the day now after that.
Yeah, you see once again having to take the tow truck at the very least to pull it out of the tire barrier. Unfortunate there with still 21 minutes to get it to the checkered flag. An estimated 16 to go for some of these classes at the moment, mind you, as you see them now getting some of the car on the jacks.
4th place in your TCR class just went off in turn 2 and hit the tire barrier. Got into the marbles on the outside of the corner. It was Team Vikings that went off. And the car just skated across the grass and went pancaking into the tire barriers over in turn number 2. Not a lot of damage on the car, but he did lose a good heap of time.
It looks like they were trying to let by some lap traffic in that, and we'll take a look at this. It will be with that green and black machine you see in the backdrop. They're already having to let by cars on the outside line, but eventually they have to move to the outside once more through Clayton Corner, which, as we've seen, if you take it on the outside, bad things can happen.
There you see it gets right into the marbles there and just spins off of his own little doing and went big into the tire barriers. So some bad luck then for Carl Friedrich Herso in that Audi has tried to find the way through. The fight though for 4th place, or 3rd place, excuse me, in your sport class is still on. Merkai Racing got awfully close to pinching Jean-Philippe Gendron around as they approached White's corner and Miata, and just at the last second had to bow out of it.
Taking a look at this once more, and these guys have been attached for the hip for the past while or so. At this point, what do you do if you're a Gendron to just try and make sure you hold on to this spot, because one little mistake, they'll be jumped on by the 97. There's a little mistake right there with the bobble, for example.
Well, Merkai Racing, it is crunch time. We're in the final 20 minutes of the race, so he's got to try to find a way through however he can. And right now, he got a much better run off of the corner than Jean-Philippe Gendron did. Will it be enough, though, to try to go for the overtake as they enter the final stages of the race through the S's? That's going to be the question. Look to the inside, then to the outside. Both on the brakes at the same time. Marathon going to try it around the outside. This is a brave move, to say the least, and it's not going to work out quite. And Gendron just able to cover it off.
How long do you think he can keep holding on? He's still got an estimated 14 laps to go to do it here, Nolan.
It's not going to be for long. ducks back across the apex to cut off Marathon in that machine. Miata is going to go way to the opposite end of the track to let this fight through. But Murakami Racing is really struggling to try to find his way through this field. And will he try to go up the inside of 3 again? There's another look. Jean-Philippe Gendron, he's doing a good job of keeping himself to the racing line and keeping his head a bit cool. This is where he made the mistake last time, though, was in the run up to Moss with that bobble. There won't be a bobble this time. He's going to keep it to the racing line. And they're going to take just about identical lines as they try to run through Moss and back onto the straight.
We'll see if Murakami Racing gets the run this time. They have to pass by some of the Mazdas, but a good amount of slipstream this time. Having to pass by one of the Audis. Will they risk going 2-3 wide? They go 2. Will we go for the cutback to take the preferred line? Nearly did. Can't get underneath, nearly making contact as he slides back, tries to go for the cross through the S's towards White's corner. Can't quite make the move yet as he backs up the corner this time.
Backs it up, but that let him get a bit of a drive off of it. He had to ease off a bit on the exit to avoid getting into the grass, but it was a very good attempt at getting that run down the main straight. I think we can agree that Murakami Racing's car is a little bit faster than the GRT machine, but it's a matter of where do you try to get through this track. It's so difficult to pass on. Like we've said over and over from the top of the broadcast, the only real passing zone is down into the Andretti straight. And right now, that seems to be where he's trying to make all these looks, but he's just not able to get it done in time.
The run through Quebec not quite as good. Going through turn number 4, though, Gendron able to carry more speed. Backing off this time is Murakami Racing as Tom Metherell trying to dive it off the corner. They'll have an Audi to get around. VEC Sim Racing, the 25th overall car, moves to the left side of the racetrack. And right on down the Mario Andretti straightaway they go. Here comes the draft. You see it through the exhaust pipe. Side by side in towards traffic. There's the squeeze. Back to single file they go.
Oh boy, that was awfully close. Murakami Racing, he backed up Moss because he recognized that Audi would get in the way. He actually timed that back up perfectly to get the run he needed, but it was just bad luck that the Audi happened to be right there, and that is what completely killed the momentum that he needed to get up there. Now, though, they've got another machine. It's Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing trying to hang on to second place in their own TCR class that's going to split up this battle for third.
For now is the main thing, though. Going to take a couple laps, maybe to reel him back in as Blake Neck keeps the car very clean, while the 97 rides all the way in the marbles and holds on, kicks some of them off the racetrack, in fact. That lost about 4 or 5 car lanes in the process. Now it's going to come down to driver once again. They have a huge amount of traffic up the road, though. You see them just in the backdrop right there. They're coming up to them and quick.
A good portion of those are TCRs, and I count at least 4 that are in the mix of this. It is going to be, 4 Audis that are in the mix. And they got Porsches trying to work their way through as well. So this could get interesting once they do catch the Audis in about a quarter of a lap here. With Jean-Philippe Gendron still trying to find his way through. He did get that gap pulled because of the last Audi they came across. So Gendron did a good job of timing that to make sure that he could use that Audi as a pick. We'll be able to time that as well, though, with some of these others.
And that's a major question indeed. Again, this is still the fight for third holding on. As you look on board, you see those cars. It's get up and go time, to say the very least, Nolan.
Well, it was get up and go time about 15 minutes ago at this point, and we saw that already from multiple drivers that were trying to make moves work desperately in the past few laps. Now there is a Miata that is amidst the lap traffic ahead of them, and it's one of the huge-ass Miatas that they're going to have to try to find their way through. GRT catching the lap traffic at, again, the worst possible point, the most crucial point to try to hang on to that lead. This will allow Murakami to get a much bigger run off of the corner. It will not be nearly enough to be able to actually reel in the car to pass, but it is going to help exponentially in the run to try to make this traffic work.
A little bit tight with all those cars, as you've seen, going 3 wide. Now there's the chance they go side by side heading into the S's. Will that happen? On the entry it does, at least for Gendron. But now, this is not good for the 97. Now he's stuck behind not just one, but 2 TCRs at the worst possible moment.
So Murkai trying to go for the over-under on the Real Pixel Motorsport machine. He's going to get his way through. He's got one more, though. The CXR Project Black machine. And he's going to get through that one all safe and sound. And now it is still not clear track, as there is still more lap traffic. Not much. You got a Miata and an Audi ahead of them. And after that, they should be clean sailing for a little bit.
By the way, that 199 machine that just passed the CXR Project Black machine nearly collected Real Pixel Motorsport in terms of losing the back end and help bunch up a battle for position. So we are still seeing that happen. But these cars that are for, you can see it right here, this nearly was disaster.
Oh, holy cow. That was beautifully driven to hang on to that car for the CXR Project Black. That was a very impressive drive. Let's get an onboard shot of this one. Watch that wheel. The car got a little bit wide onto the grass, and look at that. Cat-like reflexes from Elbarnopo to get that to work. And now Aaron D. Taylor has gone into the grass to get around some more lap traffic, and in doing so, he's picked up a position from Real Pixel Motorsports.
Yeah, that includes some of the traffic as you look up the road now. This is 6th position for right now for the class. As this has all been... It's been a crazy battle, too, with now all this lap traffic having to cut through. That 199 machine is all the way back to 8th position. Full Send Racing is now the 7th.
Yes, so things are beginning to shape up in a hurry with these different battles closing on in. Full Send Racing, of course, still trying to fend off against, well, CXR Project Black. And it's going to be an interesting one to say the least. Right now, it looks like Full Send kind of running a little on their own for the time being. They're trying to reel in Real Pixel Motorsport, the car that got through on the last lap as a result of all of that lap traffic.
Yeah, that battle seems to have settled out. The traffic, not so much. Some of the cars that are going to enter that again is still that battle for 3rd we were talking about. We also have another battle shaping up still. 2nd and 3rd, closing up some gap all of a sudden was Sim.RC ClubSport, I should rather say. They're closing in.
So Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing's Blake Neck. Remember, a little while ago, he was so dominant in trying to find a way through the Sim.RC ClubSport machine. And I believe it was one of those drivers in Moss that did go off and handed that position. I think it was Patrick Young that did end up running wide. And again, starting to close in. So the battles are far from over in this race as things begin to shape up for a rather interesting finish if Young can get that power down and reel in that gap.
Do you think he can do it is the big question.
Well, I wouldn't put it past him. Young, from what I've seen, he is an incredibly fast driver when he wants to be. He knows when to back off. He knows when to push. And right now, he is pushing. He is seeing that Audi at the top of his screen, and he has wanted to go, 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 and pick up that final podium position.
Well, technically he is in 3rd, but wanting to move up one more step. It feels a little bit more better if you're up on the 2nd step than the 3rd step. By the way, the 2nd step, about to get very contested. You see there, Hell Racers, they are getting reeled in by 3rd and 4th, which is still in the midst of their scrap at the moment.
Now, they're getting reeled in, but they still have about 9 seconds ahead to the 2nd place. So I think that's the question of can they reel that in? They have to reel in about a second a lap, realistically. Or actually more than a second a lap and really be able to make that work. So I think the battle is going to be for the final step of the podium between Murkai Racing and Gold Racing Team Red. And right now, GRT is being forced to take a wider line through turn number 1. And that battle just closed up in a huge hurry. Now Murkai Racing in prime position to strike on the dirty straight, or it might be before that because GRT just got a little bit wide and had to take a bit of an undesirable line, and they're trying to defend hard.
That nearly went off in the marbles there, Nolan. That was near disaster for this battle. But it still heats up for the time being. They do have interclass traffic to work through. Hard dive by Murakai Racing to close the gap. Able to just stick it along the curbing.
Oh, heads up though, got into the grass a little bit. That lost him a little bit of speed. He's not going to be close enough to be able to make the run down the front straightaway work. But again, like you said, they got the lap traffic ahead of them. So there's more than enough traffic for Murakai to try to find their way through.
Yeah, now they also have huge-ass audience. The next car they're going to have to deal with up on the racetrack. You see them up in the forward shot. As now, Gendron working his way through White's corner. Hits the curbing, slides up, fights hard, gets off the gas, able to even up the difference though off the corner. As they keep up the scrap, under 10 minutes to go, estimated 6 laps to go. Once again, the 97, their best section, one of their best sections, has been turn number 1 by carrying speed along the curbs. They close the gap by a car length. Now the traffic. Will they go to the left side? Yes. Huge cut for Gendron to get back across to the right side.
Alrighty, so the gloves are coming off. Ding, ding, ding. Here we go. Round number 1. Let the fight begin, says Tom Metherall as he tries to duck up the inside. That does not work. It's going to be down to the Moss. How can you handle Moss? They have an Audi to work with. So Murakai backs up the corner. Again, the wider arc than GRT. Cuts it back. Can he get the run that he needs this time down the straightaway? First the out, then switches back to the Porsche. It's going to be a closing battle. There you see for the flaming exhaust just how close this is. Metherall goes to the outside. They're going to be side by side and run up to the S's. They have another Porsche, but it's not going to be a factor in this battle. It's going to be close as they throttle their way on through. But GRT able to hang on. No, they're not. Here comes Murakai throttling it up the inside, and GRT pushed up and into the marbles.
Heck of a corner, heck of a run, and now they look to run away to hold on to the podium position for third spot. Already up and away by 5 car lengths. Take one more look as the boxing gloves were out. They tried this move a couple times. Previous times having traffic. This time, the traffic isn't a factor, and they plant the power down just perfectly on the outside line.
And that caught GRT off guard. They went up into the marbles. That lost them all of that time. And now, the way Murakai's been driving it, I think they're going to be able to run away with that final podium position to be able to manage things off and keep things up and under shape. It is notable that while that was going on, the gap to second place did extend out to 12 seconds. So hold on, huge checkup, and here comes GRT trying to fight back.
Losing some traction was Kyle Smith, the class leader for the club drivers. He ended up saving it, but that ended up getting the slipstream back for GRT goal. For GRT red, I should rather say. And now, the battle might be back on for a second ding ding ding.
And Murakai Racing took a little bit of a wider line through the S's that time. That isn't good for them if they're trying to hang on in this battle. GRT, now they're going to be the one that are going to be benefiting from all of this draft. And GRT, they actually probably could have gotten that spot back down the Andretti straight if only they did not go into the grass at the exit of Moss. They saw the opportunity, but were a little too opportunistic on the exit of the corner, and it was forced them to have to back out of that one. Got some traffic ahead. It is 2 Audis, and they are fighting for position.
Indeed, right now, this is going to get interesting. That is up the road just a little bit by about a third of a racetrack. The next car still up in front of them. You'll see Rev Match Esports RB Scale Works. Then Curly and Moss are those Audis that they'll have to deal with in the next half lap or so. But again, what will Gendron do to try and make the pass back? What do you do? He has 3 laps estimated to work with, 4 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock.
He's got to go, and he's got to go now. The time for conserving is gone. You cannot show any mercy at this point in time. Those 2 Audis up front, they're side by side, and it is the Evolve Racing Team Orange completing the pass around the outside. They're swinging back and almost make contact as Falk Autotech Sim Racing managed to somehow get that spot back through the S's. It was a very aggressive bump, and he almost pushed him into the pit lane. What in the world is going on in this battle in the DCR class? It is certainly on now.
Here comes the battle we've been keeping an eye on, cutting through some of these cars. And this is not the best of time to have that sort of diciness with a couple minutes to go, with points fighting hard on the line. Gold Racing Team Red just got by the traffic, but they lost time because they were side by side through turn 1 with the TCR.
So they ended up losing out more than they gained, and that might have just secured Murkai's third place finish today. There's about 9-10 separating them. They closed in quite a bit, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think. They're going to need a miracle at this point, the GRT boys, if they want to get that spot and go for that podium finish.
You can see the time differentials on the bottom of your screen in terms of how it's getting towards things. Gendron 140 just now. 3 wide traffic management up the road for Metherell. He's able to get by both the cars. Now he's got clean sailing for the most of this run. Still having to get through is the 22 machine with 2.5 minutes on the clock.
And Jean-Philippe Gendron getting held up big time by that Audi. He is not going to be happy about that at all. Managed to find a way through on the front straightaway, but that was detrimental to the run that he once had. Murkai Racing, it is all but over for that battle. The draft has been effectively broken, and at this point in time, I don't think there's enough time to the lap cars in front of them to be able to really play hard into this, fight for third place.
Yeah, lost way too much time, and that end turn shows how hard, first off, Murkai Racing was working to close up the gap, but 2, how key it was to get through it cleanly all day long today, Nolan. In the end, it decided a podium spot.
It very much did, so that just shows how important it would have been to get the lap traffic through in the traffic management, and it almost cost Murkai a podium finish today, but they managed to get through it all right because GRT got a little bit too aggressive trying to fight back. They got held up just as much as their opponent.
Indeed here, estimated white flag has just popped up in the final minute or so. NAB Racing just took the start and finish line. With the lap times being 1 minute and 27 seconds, this is indeed the estimated white flag bell lap. NAB Racing, they do have some damage, but it's been a dominant run for them. They had one of their best qualified sessions all season and their best race this season today, Nolan. And now they look to cap it off with a W.
Absolutely, and they don't have a lot of work to do either. They just have a few more corners left. Got a little bit of lap traffic ahead of them to work their way through yet, but apart from that, it's going to be clean sailing for them at this point in time, so they just have to make sure that they can keep that clean. Got a nice, comfortable gap back to Hell Racers who are just going through Moss now. No reason to push it at all.
Down the final straightaway, Frank Van Brandwick looks to carry it forward. He'll catch up to the second place car of Blake Neck for the TCRs. But today, NAB Racing will take the final corners. Will we get the white flag with the checkered? Yes, indeed. Clock reaches full zeros. Checker flag up in the air. It is Frank Van Brandwick. He wins this Club Sport Series 2.4 Motorsport. They just got white flag, pardon me. Either way, it is a large gap of 9.8 seconds.
Well, right ahead of them, Paul Van Loon, you can see, he actually had a bit of an off moment right before this. He went big through the grass trying to get around a huge ass Audi, and now Frank Van Brandwick, a little bit of confusion, trying to work his way through on what is now the last lap of the race. So a few drivers seem to have some late race struggles still.
Indeed, he'll try and close things out here again, though. Talk about your opinion in terms of what we've seen from NAB Racing today and the dominance it's been today overall again.
Well, it's been an absolutely dominant run for them, and things are going to get good, and we just had contact for a battle further back. Evolve Race Team Orange, in fact, Autotech Sim Racing just made contact, and the 88 machine got shoved off the track over turn 1.
Interesting diciness there, but you can see that was the battle we were talking about with some of the lap traffic. They are really trying to fight hard towards this checker flag, but NAB Racing will now get it through White's corner. taking the final section. Frank Brandwick wins it for NAB Racing.
And so NAB Racing taking what is going to be their first win of the season today, as the rest of the drivers try to cycle their way on through. It has been a very good race, to say the very least. And right now, Team Hoichenfeld and Sven Glatzel, they also have no troubles at all. Kyle Smits in the huge-ass Mazda, I believe, just took the checkered flag himself to take your victory in your club class. So Kyle Smith is going to be your winner on that front. And Glatzel down the Andretti straight for the final time today.
Kyle Smith did indeed take home the club class for Team Huge Ass. He is already off to celebration land, to say the very least. He looks to make it around for the cool down lap. But for Team Hoichenfeld, they look to make it to the final checkered flag position. Sven Glatzel will take home the victory today. He wins the TCR class with him and Team Hoichenfeld.
And so that will end off the race for today. See Glatzel doing a little bit of weaving down on the straightaway in celebration. It's been a hard-fought race for a lot of drivers today, and no doubt a lot of drivers happy that this race is going to be done and put away for the record book.
Indeed, a lot to talk about when this race is all said and done. But man, oh man, was it a fun one, to say the very least. And what was a crazy first half of the season. As these drivers cycle their way around and close things up for the warm-up lap, for the cool-down lap, let's take a look at your unofficial race results for today's racing action. Up at the top of the sport class, it was NAB Racing taking the victory today over Hell Racers. Mirakai Racing finished in third. Gold Racing Team Red in fourth, and a heck of a battle all the way to the closing minutes. But Team Howie Media finishing in fifth. Racecraft Esports Live in sixth. Gold Racing Team White in seventh. Project GTNs.de in eighth. With SlowRacing.com Esports Team and their number 2 entry in the 76 car, technically, in ninth. Team Howie Media finished in 10th. The rest of the class, H2 Performance SRT, Rev Match Esports RB Scale Works, followed by Fisher Motorsport, 49 Motorsports, SRT Esport Green, Junto Surreal Sim Racing, and Huge Ass Porsche, along with Northside Racing and SlowRacing.com's 75 machine, round out the entrants. Nolan, how did the TCR class come out as?
Well, Sven Glatzel managed to take the win for Team Hoichenfeld by a good margin. For the TCR class, Alpine Stars, Geodesic Racing, Blake Neck in second place, with Patrick Young in a very well-deserved third place. Team Vikings, Moiner, and German Sim Racing Cyan finishing in 16th and 17th respectively, both making up 14 spots for the start of this race. Real Pixel Motorsport down in 6th place. Full Send Racing finishes off in 7th. CXR Project Black, 15 spots gained for 8th place. Element Sim Racing in 9th. E-Team Brit rounding off your top 10. They did manage to get that top 10 finish. Back Autotech Sim Racing in 11th place, with Evolve Racing Team Orange in 12th. VEC Sim Racing, the two VEC Sim Racing machines in 13th and 14th in the class. CXR Project Black again with their other car in 15th place. Full Send Racing in 16th. And it'll be Real Pixel Motorsport in 17th. Huge Ass Audi in 18th. Graphite Racing in 19th. The other Graphite Racing machine, the 193 this time, down in 20th place. German Sim Racing Orange in 21st. S-Rock Racing Orange in the 22nd place. And rounding off your 24-car entry list today, we've got Racecraft Esports Push and the Speedworks Racing Team Esport.
In the club class, it was Huge Ass Mazda taking home the victory by one full lap in a confusing finish for them. They ended up pulling away after some attrition for some of the Movado cars. We'll get to that in a second. CXR Project Black came on in second. Then Roto Sim Racing Team multiple laps down in third. Then it was Kawayup Racing in the next spot, followed by Slid McKee Racing in the top 5. Movado Sim Racing with a rough one. The 298 getting involved with incidents. They were one of the dominant cars. They come home in 6th place instead. Tri Racing still comes home 7th, with Movado Sim Racing's 289 in 8th. Rogers 851 Mazda rounds out the 9 cars in that field. 51 total machines took the green flag today. and what was a wild one here for the 2.4 hours of Mosport. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, post-race coverage here on iRacing Esports Network and RacespotTV. You're watching the Club Sport Series powered by DGFX Racing.
and he's going to get them all done with. What amazing
lead to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is going to touch in. Pit press.
He saved it.
What a save.
Look to the outside as Cronkite goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
I trying this contact though.
Wide left of the racetrack. Chris Leonard drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cut back here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Makashube, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
Welcome back, everyone, to tonight's coverage of the Club Sport Series powered by DGFX Racing for round number 3 with the 2.4 hours of Mosport. At Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Justin Prince alongside Nolan Rampel, Connor Rematic in the director's seat for today's action. It was a crazy one, to say the very least, as we begin our post-race coverage. knowing your thoughts on what we've seen in terms of the racing action today.
It was definitely action-packed from the start to the finish, and it's something that we have been seeing so consistently in every single race we've done for this series. It's never failed to disappoint, and we certainly get a disappointing race here today. This was, again, it was really just something else today, though. A lot of carnage early on, a lot of carnage towards the end. Nice, decent run in the middle. Still, though, exciting all the way through.
And who impressed you the most in terms of the drive today, whether it was in the sport class or the club class or the TCRs, to see them charge to the field and/or fight for position all day long today?
I would have to say it would actually be Nav Racing. Seldom do we see in this series a drive that is so dominant like they saw today, and they did take the overall win. They lost the lead early on, but they were very quick to regain it, and they ended up finishing so far ahead, a good 8 seconds ahead, but for a good portion of the middle of the race, they had a 32-second gap, so it was very impressive drive from them. If I had to go for in terms of most positions gained, though, you got to give it to the CXR Project Black guys. They made up 15 spots in the TCR class, finished 8th in their own class there.
Yeah, absolutely. You had teams go up plus 18, in fact, in some cases. The Evolve Racing Team Orange, remember, had to start from the rear of the field. They charged up to 24th overall. Other teams, both the CXR Project Black cars, charged up, but others went down the order as much as 40 positions in some of the cases. Others, because of attrition in some of the class overall positions, they rose up a ton, to say the very least, as you see on your left side of the screen.
Oh, yes. So things have been going perfectly for quite a few drivers. RevMatch Esports, another one of those guys to make up a good number of spots in this race. It is it's something very impressive, to say at the very least, with all this stuff, and it looks like we've got a few guys that are going to be coming in to join us in a minute here.
Let's see if we can get some words with your winner in the club class today. For Huge House Mazda, the driver who closed it out for them, it is Kyle Smith. He is a winner today. Kyle, how does it feel to be a winner today in what was an eventful race here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park?
It feels phenomenal, guys. I'm looking forward to going back and watching the broadcast to find out exactly what happened. I'll be frank, I didn't expect to talk to you guys today.
Yeah, it all came really in the middle of the field as a battle was going on throughout the field. It ended up involving the Bravado's racing team, sim racing team. But how difficult was it to try and get through the traffic management? Because that was the main factor in that situation. How difficult was it for you to try and let cars through as the craziness happened?
A lot of it was, I spent a lot of time looking in my mirrors and trying to estimate where people would be catching me, and trying to give as much as I possibly could without losing a ton of time. And I think that really benefited us.
How much work was put into a race such as this for today to learn the track, as well as to make sure you're prepared for the unexpected?
I've found that the car is very different to drive now that we've got the new tire model. So every bit of practice that we've done over the years for Mosport or any other track has really kind of gone out the window. So it was a lot of testing, track time, practices hosted by DGFX, and just trying to get a feel for what the new tires do on basically every track.
How do you feel about the new tire model? Because that's a great point. It's been about a few months now to get a hang of it. How do you feel now that you've had a couple rounds or so to get it used to it?
I'm a really big fan of the tire model. It isn't quite as grippy and really rewards more smooth and really taking care of the tires. I think a really great step forward.
Next race on the schedule will be a 4-hour race, and it's a track that is a new one on the iRacing service in the past few months. We're going to Barcelona. Your thoughts on the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia?
Well, I was telling the team the other night that I should probably think about picking up the track. I'm really excited to get there. It's going to be a lot of heads down, really learning the track and trying to optimize really whatever I can get out of the car.
Is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of your class victory today?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank my co-driver today, Justin Hall, and the other co-drivers this season, Fawcett and Alex Cofford. Of course, Huge Ass. I wouldn't be here without him. And you guys for DGFX, of course, and you guys for broadcasting the race today.
Thank you very much for the time, Kyle. Congratulations on the class victory.
Thank you.
That was Kyle Smith coming away with the class victory today. Nolan Rempo, though, is now along with your overall race leader from NAB Racing, a dominant drive. Nick Thisson now joins us in the broadcast booth. Nolan, you're standing by with him.
Thank you. And Mr. Nick Thisson, it was, of course, a very dominant drive from NAB Racing today. You got the pole position for the first time in the season. You lost the lead early on, but managed to fight back really quickly and get the lead and hang on to it for a good majority of the race. Was the drive easy? Because you guys were certainly making it look easy out there.
No, I don't think it was very easy. I mean, yeah, we lost the position in the beginning, but it was mostly because the other team just took a false start, basically. I mean, we weren't going yet, and they just overtook us, so it was a bit of a shame, because it took away a fight in the early laps, I think. Could have been fun.
And we saw throughout the course of this race just how crucial the traffic management was going to be, and we saw that it was a struggle for a whole lot of drivers all throughout the field so much throughout the course of this race. We talked to somebody in the slowest class about this. Now, I'm wanting to get the thoughts of somebody in the fastest class about this. When you got two classes to work at a track that's as tight and there's really one line as this one, you know, how do you kind of deal with that, just doing that as a constant?
Yeah, it's difficult, but it helps, of course, to have a big gap. Then you can just take it easy. And many times, I just stayed behind to make sure I wasn't doing anything stupid. But it's still easy to get caught out or to make some small mistake or to think, you know, I can just take this apex, but then it kind of closes on you.
Well, despite this, it was you that managed to pull that 32-second gap and hold that so consistently throughout this race until the final stint. And even then, it never closed beneath 7 seconds. The final gap ended up being about 8.64 seconds. So it was, of course, a very dominant drive for you, and we're all happy that you managed to get that first win in the season today. And before we let you go to celebrate with the team today, do you have anybody to shout out who gets it done for that number 08?
Well, of course, thanks to my co-driver, Frank. I think he did a great job as well. I was a bit worried that because we had to take tires in the second stop, that it would be a fight in the end. But he kept his cool and did a very good job to bring it home. And thanks, of course, to the rest of the team for supporting us.
And that was, of course, your driver that came from the winning and dominant team today, NAB Racing's Nick Thisson. Thank you for joining us today, Nick. We'll let you get back to it to celebrate with your team. And I think, Justin Prince, you're going to be standing by with Mr. Hampus Baz from the Hell Races number 16.
Yes, indeed. 8.6 seconds back is where he finished, but it was a heck of a drive for you and your team. Your team started in 11th today in the class, but charged up to the top 3 and fast in the first 30 minutes or so of this race. How and you or your team feeling after what type of drive you seen today from you guys?
It was a calm drive. Our game crashed in the qualifying, so we couldn't qualify where we wanted. And we tried to get back to the front. We couldn't really get to NAB, but we were on an off strategy, taking the tires later than first, in the first stop instead of later.
What came down to that decision to try to take the fresher tires on the first stop rather than towards the end of the race?
We wanted to take the tires as late as possible, as early as possible, because the temperature was dropping by the race. And the earliest stop meant we had a shorter second stint on the tires towards the end.
What were your thoughts on the traffic management as the race progressed today in this one?
It became a lot calmer in the later stage of the race. And it was we had tried to take it calm as well when we found ourselves in a good position.
Now the next race we go to Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. Your thoughts as that is a new iRacing circuit in the past few months?
It's a bit more open track, so I think it will be easier with traffic management. I haven't driven it more than in F3 cars. Hopefully it will be fun in a GT car.
Anyone you want to thank before we let you get going?
My co-driver, Marcus Simonsson, and the organizers.
Thank you very much for the time, sir.
Thank you.
That's Hampus Bounce coming home in second in the class today for the sport class. Nolan, your final thoughts?
Well, as always, it was an incredibly intense race, incredibly hard fought by all the drivers all the way around. I can't wait for Barcelona. You know, I can get that the track can tend to get some bad reps sometimes as being one of the more dull tracks, but when you have multi-class racing there, and not to mention GT racing with some of the lower powered cars that we see, I think it'll be an interesting one to go to.
I think it might be interesting as well. Can't wait to see what happens there, especially with the multi-class racing. But that will not be until the next few weeks or so. Until next time, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you very much for tuning in for today's coverage here on the iRacing Esports Network and RacespotTV. For Nolan Rempel, for Connery Maddock, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. You've been watching the 2.4 hours of Mosport for round number 3 of the ClubSport series powered by DGFX Racing. Congratulations to NAB Racing, Team Hoichingveld, along with Hugh Joss Mazda on winning today's classes.